Jude, we're heading back to Texas.
I was going to do a Midwestern attempt at yeehaw, but I want them to let me into Texas.
Yeah, it's a bad idea.
Yeah, forget I said any of that.
Okay, well, so we're back in Texas, CanJam Dallas, November 2nd and 3rd. We're going to be back at the Marriott Quorum by the Galleria.
Yeah.
Man, that's a name.
It is.
But I'm so happy to be coming back because the first CanJam Dallas was absolutely incredible. I cannot wait to see what year 2 has in store.
Yeah, the first CanJam Dallas was so, I mean, it made a mark, right? We knew we had to go back.
Yes.
Like that was obvious as the exhibitors were breaking down. I think everybody knew we were going back.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Every city we go to with a CanJam has its own spirit, kind of, you know what I mean? Like the community has its own feel and vibe. And Dallas did not disappoint.
No, they did not.
The community there has its own vibe, very like inordinately friendly. All the communities are friendly, but they have a Texas brand of friendly or a Dallas brand of friendly that it's kind of hard to put a finger on, but it is true, unmistakable at the same time.
It is.
Yeah.
So let's not wait any longer so we can get back there. There's a whole lot of gear to talk about in this preview video. Let's just dive straight in.
Yeah.
Oh, he did it.
Shit Audio, now based in Texas, will be coming to CanJam Dallas with so much exciting stuff. Unfortunately, I cannot detail a lot of it in this preview video, but you will be able to experience it all at CanJam Dallas. Shit Audio will actually have 2 exhibits, one in the main exhibit hall and another exhibit in the Mesquite 1 room. What they'll be showing in the Mesquite 1 room is very, very exciting. So much so that I know we'll be using it here at HeadFi HQ. So I'd actually recommend making Shit Audio's exhibit in Mesquite 1 your first stop. Now, I can say that in that room, they will have the stuff you see in this photo and a lot more. Okay, here's more of what I am allowed to mention. Shit Audio will have the Shit Audio Gunyer 2 at their main show floor exhibit. The Gunyer 2 will have Shit's new multiform topology, high-rate Unison 384, 2 USB inputs, and more. They'll also have a prototype of the new Shit Audio Stjarna, which is a pure tube phono preamp with 60 dB of gain, enough for moving coil cartridges without step-up transformers, which is very cool. Now, there's more to the Stjarna I can't talk about now, but that will be unveiled at CanJam Dallas. You should be able to find the Stjarna in their main show floor exhibit too. Look also for the Shit Audio Wotan, which will be Shit Audio's most powerful speaker amp. The Wotan will be switchable for overall feedback or feedback-free. And again, there's more about the Wotan you'll be able to learn all about at the show. Also look for a revised Shit Audio Kara, the details of which I actually don't have at all, but can't wait to find out more about that at CanJam Dallas too. All the Shit Audio stuff I can't tell you about, but really wish I could tell you about now, are things you definitely do not want to miss. So again, my recommendation, make Shit Audio's Mesquite 1 exhibit your first stop at CanJam Dallas. Now, let's get to a couple of can't-miss products from Shit that are already released and available, but that we want to make sure you do not miss at CanJam Dallas. Now, on the table right now is something that I previously said is one of the best value anythings in all of HeadFi. Mm-hmm. And if it looks like I'm thinking, it's because I'm trying to think of everything that's come out since the Midgard's been released. So anyways, it's still true. So the Shit Audio Midgard is one of the best value anythings in all of HeadFi.
Yep.
What is it? It's a headphone amplifier. It's a balanced headphone amp and preamp. And I want to quote Jason Stoddard from Shit Audio to try to tell you a little bit more about what it is. The Shit Audio Midgard is simply the best measuring, highest power discrete headphone amp we've ever made. But that's not all. Midgard's new Halo topology also offers the potential for higher performance where it matters, at your ears. Now, about Halo, he said, it's a mixed mode feedback topology that incorporates your headphone driver into the feedback loop, offering the potential for better control at driver resonance and improved acoustic results.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
So try it. Now, it's the Halo topology only applies to the balanced output
Correct.
of the Shit Audio Midgard. So the Shit Audio Midgard outputs up to 4.8 watts RMS into 32 ohms, so plenty of drive. You could drive pretty much anything most anything you'd ever want to drive with a headphone amp. And it's designed and built in Shit Audio's new Texas facilities, which I think is very cool. And it's $220, which I find incredible. It's a discrete headphone amp that measures incredibly. I haven't measured it yet, actually.
Right.
But here's what I can tell you about it, and this is when you kind of get an idea of what he's talking about. When you take something like an ultra-sensitive IEM and you plug it in and you hear nothing in terms of self-noise.
Yeah.
Right? And that's in low-gain mode. And then you go to high-gain mode and you put something like a Susvara Unveiled in it and you get something like, remember we were driving the RAL 1995 Imanis with it as well, and the Magna. I mean, for $220 to be able to drive anything,
Yeah.
this is what I would call one of those amps that I've described as reviewers amps. You know, a reviewer would want to just take any number of devices, I mean, headphones and earphones, that they can just plug into an amp and know that it's going to work beautifully. And the sound of the Midgard, I love it because it's not clinical, but it's still very resolving. And I still can't believe it's only $220. I don't know how they do it with a discrete headphone amp.
Yeah.
So the Midgard, to me, yes, still one of the best value anythings in all of HeadFi. Always a can't miss then at CanJam.
Now, there's one more thing at CanJam that I do want to mention will be there. Shit Audio's Gunner will be available to try. Now, the Gunner was first unveiled at CanJam SoCal 2024. I had no idea it was coming out, but when I passed by their exhibit, I saw it and it caught my eye right away. It is a very compact desktop DAC amp combo, and it has integrated tone controls and a microphone input. So they're going to be targeting people who are gamers, who are streamers, or those that need a mic input for things like Zoom calls, Teams meetings, those kind of things. Now, it has a built-in DAC, so it has an ESS ES9018 DAC inside. The amplifier can output up to 2 watts RMS per channel into 16 ohms. So for something this small, it has a good amount of drive to it.
And it's small.
It is very compact. Yeah. And it also has these dials in the front, which I think are rather intriguing. It has a width and presence dial. So the width dial, they say that it expands the soundstage, which, hello. That sounds fantastic.
I haven't tried that.
I haven't either.
Okay.
It has a presence dial. Now, the presence dial, they say, brings voices and other sounds into sharp focus. So, let's say, for example, you're playing a game and you want detail. So, either vocal call-outs or maybe sound of enemies running around in a game or something. That's where the presence is going to come into effect. If you're playing a game, and let's say you're playing more single player and you want to get a more immersive, wide soundstage for one of my favorite games, something like Skyrim, for example, that's probably where I would end up using that a lot.
You gamer nerd. You're sitting there wondering what it does with games. I'm like sitting here thinking about what it's going to do with music.
I want games.
No, I do want to try those.
And then one more thing I want to mention, they list that it has a very wide compatibility. So it's compatible with PC, Mac, PS4, PS5, Switch, iOS, and Android devices. So unless you're gaming on an Xbox, you're pretty much covered.
Yeah, I want to try this Gunner.
Yeah, so I'm definitely going to check it out at CanJam. High End by Oz will be at CanJam Dallas this year, and they're also one of our CanJam Dallas show sponsors, so thank you to Oz and the team for helping make CanJam Dallas possible this year. Now, while High End by Oz carries numerous products from Albedo Silver, Syn Audio, Thrax Audio, and more, they'll be bringing Viva Audio's family of tube amplifiers to the show. Amplifiers like the Egoista 845. The Egoista 845 has been called the pinnacle of Viva's headphone amplifier design, and it's been said to effortlessly drive the most difficult headphones with unparalleled resolution and dynamics. For you tube lovers, you'll be excited to hear that it's sporting one 6N1P tube, one 6SN7 GTB, two 845 tubes, and one EH5U4GB. They'll also have the Egoista 845's smaller siblings, the Egoista 2A3 and the electrostatic Egoista STX. If you've never heard your favorite electrostatic headphone through the STX, do yourself a favor and make sure it's one of your first stops at CanJam Dallas. You'll be kicking yourself if you miss it.
Bloom Audio will have some incredible source gear at their CanJam Dallas exhibit, including new, just-announced releases from Astell&Kern, KN, and others. Let's take a look at some of the great electronics Bloom Audio will be showing at CanJam Dallas.
All right, I want to take a second to talk about something that I find very exciting. This is Astell&Kern's A&E Ultima SP3000M. Now, that may sound familiar to a lot of people because they have the Astell&Kern A&E Ultima SP3000, which is their top-of-the-line, flagship, cost-no-object DAP. It's a fantastic DAP.
Incredible player.
And this is basically a tiny version of that, and I really appreciate this. So inside, like the SP3000, you'll find AKM's flagship DAC combination, which is 4 AKM AK4499EXs and 2 AKM AK4191 EQs. It has Astell&Kern's Terraton Alpha sound solution, which is what gives a lot of Astell&Kern players that classic Astell&Kern sound that we've come to know and love. And this one of the biggest changes right now, you'll notice right away, is that this one's smaller.
Quite a bit smaller.
So the SP3000 has a 5.46-inch display with a 1080 by 1920 resolution. This one comes in at 4.1 inches with a 720 by 1280. And I'm going to be honest, size-wise, I prefer this one. It's smaller, easier to fit in my hand, easier to toss into a bag. I very much like the size to this. It does feature the same Qualcomm Snapdragon 6125 octa-core CPU, and it outputs a maximum of 6.3 volts RMS balanced. So a lot of drive for a little player.
Which is the same as the SP3000.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, because this is smaller, it does have a slightly smaller battery life. I don't know the exact battery life differences, so it will be a little shorter than the SP3000. However, I haven't run into any issues. I'm using this. So I've been using this pretty much since it came in.
Yes.
And I've been loving my time with it. It's fast, it's snappy, it sounds phenomenal. And it it's running Android, so you can run a lot of different music apps through it as well.
Yeah.
Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, you have pretty much taken it from the moment it came in.
Yep.
Because I think what was that Sony player that you used for so many years?
The NWZX300, which I still have.
Yeah, which is very small and light.
Yeah.
This one comes in, you're like, ooh, it's an SP3000, but smaller. And then I haven't seen it since.
Smaller and lighter.
I literally have not used that, I don't think, once.
Yeah, which is why it's my fingerprints all over this absolutely lovely chrome tanned cowhide case. It's beautiful. I love this thing. And I will say, for an astell&kern player, they do tend to have a little bit of pointy corners sometimes. The leather case makes it so easy to carry and it's just comfortable in the hand. I can use this thing for hours. It's going to be a travel companion for a while.
I'd like to try it.
No.
Now, as you well know, I am a tube audio enthusiast, and I have been, since I was pretty much a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result, this player from astell&kern, which is their A&, Ultima SP3000T, T standing for tube, is perhaps my favorite portable digital audio player of all time.
Right.
So the tube amp circuit in it uses dual Raytheon Jan 6418 mil-spec vintage tubes. I don't know of any other player that uses those tubes.
I can't think of a single one.
And those tubes, I think, are largely responsible for giving this that classic and modern tube amp sound. Like it sounds like a desktop tube amp in terms of tonality, the holographic soundstage, harmonic richness. Love that about it. Now, you can use it in solid state mode as well, or you can hybridize between pure tube mode and pure solid state mode to varying degrees on the fly so you can hear the effect immediately.
Right.
Now, this is also a flagship player, in the flagship class, in the A and Ultima class of astell&kern's players. So it uses the AKM flagship DAC setup, which is the AKM AK4191EQ, AK4499EX combo. And then it also uses the Snapdragon 6125 octa-core processor with 8 gigs of DDR4 memory. So it's like the SP3000 or the SP3000M.
Yeah.
Very responsive UI. Very important to me. I do not like lag when I'm scrolling and touching things. And this has a very snappy, quick response. Again, very important to me. All of these things, but especially that tube circuit, all of these things result in what, again, is probably my favorite portable digital audio player of all time. So if you're at CanJam and you have a chance to hear the SP3000T, if you're just curious to know what a fantastic little tube circuit sounds like, one you can use with IEMs and over-ear headphones, and I do, make sure to check out the SP3000T from astell&kern. I have no idea how many times in our videos I've said, I'm a big tube audio enthusiast.
Right.
I'm not big. I'm actually quite short. But that's big. That's the KN Soul 170HA.
Yeah.
KN says it's the first implementation of a matched pair of Tungsol KT170 tubes in a single-ended architecture Class A headphone amp.
Right.
Now, for the tube complement, output, 2 Tungsol KT170s. For the driver, 2 JJ6SN7s. For the rectifier, 2 JJ GZ34Ss.
Mm-hmm.
Analog input, stereo RCA and balanced XLR. Headphone output, 6.35 millimeter, 4.4, and 4-pin XLR. Power output. Because it has speaker outputs as well.
It does.
Power output, up to 18 watts per channel into 8 ohms from the speakers. The speaker outputs. Up to 18 watts per channel via balanced XLR.
Beefy.
Yeah, beefy indeed for a tube headphone amp. And then if you have really sensitive speakers, like some horn speakers or something.
Yeah.
Which we didn't try, but I'm sure that would be fantastic. Again, 3 levels of impedance matching, dual operation modes, which I'll get to in a little bit, triode or ultralinear, dual tonality or timbre settings, dynamic or soft. And then there's a really cool volume control, which we'll get to in a second. It uses an Alps carbon film potentiometer, but there's more to that. All right, let's talk about those dual operation modes, triode or ultralinear. If you're a tube audio enthusiast, none of what I'm about to say is probably going to surprise you. So triode mode, KT170 screen grid connected directly to the anode. Ultralinear mode, a tap is added to the primary winding of the output transformers and connected to the KT170 screen grid, providing higher voltage and changing the operating state of the power tubes. Okay, here's how they describe it. Triode mode, tender, smooth, and elegant. Holography with sharp image, suitable for vocals, string music, and mid-range focused genre. For ultralinear mode, open, bold, with great momentum. Soundstage will open up, suitable for orchestral soundtracks and music with a wide dynamic range. Now, as far as their descriptions of the modes, again, if you're a tube audio enthusiast, none of that will surprise you. But I didn't really use those based on genre of music. And again, I just assumed I was going to be in triode mode the whole time. Now, I'm showing it on the table with the Abyss Headphones Diana DZ. I thought it was a beautiful pairing. And with switching between the two, I didn't end up in triode mode all the time at all. In fact, for that headphone, I was almost exclusively in ultralinear mode.
Yeah.
And in that mode, just things were jumping out of that Diana DZ, and I loved the way that sounded. With the Focal Utopia 2022, switching between the two, I almost always ended up, in fact, I always ended up with that headphone pretty much in triode mode.
Right.
And then I used it with other headphones, and I don't remember exactly which ones I was going for there, when I switched between the two, like the Hi-Fi Man Susvara Unveiled, Sennheiser HD800. Everything I plugged into this amp, because of the flexibility, I got, because there's impedance matching and things like that, I got I was able to get fantastic sound out of every headphone I plugged into it.
Yeah.
So there's a dual tonality setting, dynamic or soft. I don't think I need to explain what dynamic and soft means what it sounds like.
Yeah.
And play with that. The effect from that is not as pronounced as switching from ultralinear to triode mode.
Right.
No big surprise. Now that volume control, I think, is important to mention. So it uses an ALPS potentiometer, a carbon film potentiometer, but it also uses a JRC Muses 72320V electronic volume chips. And so essentially it's an electronically controlled analog volume control. What they say is the 170HA's high precision volume control circuit ensures a 0 dB gain difference between the two channels. So you know that you're going to have perfect channel matching throughout the range. And that to me is very important. And I love that they've implemented it that way. So this is a fantastic tube amp. Again, it's the K&Soul 170HA. If I had the space for it and a desk that could support the weight, because almost all my desks, as you know, are kind of more lightweight build, I would absolutely need to have one of these. But if you're a tube amp enthusiast with the right setup, oh my gosh, at CanJam, this is a can't-miss amplifier. At CanJam SoCal 2024, we saw a couple of them being bought on the spot, just like at show close.
Yeah.
So, can't-miss headphone amplifier, K&Soul 170HA. Now, on the table right here, as you well know, is one of my highest reference systems.
Yeah.
That's the Hi-Fi Man EF1000 DAC, which is what I'm talking about primarily in this segment. I happen to have it paired here with the Hi-Fi Man Susvara Unveiled, which is their flagship planar magnetic headphone. Together, as a system, I would compare this system to anything at any price. Phenomenal system.
Yeah.
Again, one of my highest reference systems. Anyways, let's talk about what the EF1000 DAC is. It's Hi-Fi Man's flagship DAC amp combo, obviously desktop size. As you can see, the EF1000 DAC is a very full-size DAC amp. Now, the DAC section inside it uses their top-of-the-line version of Hi-Fi Man's Himalaya R2R ladder DAC architecture called Himalaya Pro.
Right.
And there are actually 4 Himalaya Pro DACs inside the EF1000 DAC. Now, R2R DAC enthusiasts watching this are probably familiar. You might remember the PCM 1704 DAC. That's another R2R DAC. The highest realization, I think, of the PCM 1704 was the PCM 1704K.
I think so.
4 Himalaya Pros, which, again, the EF1000 has inside, the EF1000 DAC has inside, outperform 4 PCM 1704Ks in every technical respect.
Right.
And that's really saying something. So, phenomenal R2R DAC inside the EF1000 DAC. Now let's talk about the amp section. The amp section is also very noteworthy with a newly developed, fully discrete operational amplifier module in the input stage and a fully balanced amplifier output with a combination of field effect transistors and standard transistors. The amplifier uses a huge, also if you opened it up, there is a huge transformer inside using oxygen-free copper, quad-paired output transistors, if I didn't mention that already, high-end AC coupling capacitors, and a step potentiometer volume control. I really like that because I get perfect channel matching throughout. Phenomenal amp. It can output up to 13.7 watts into 32 ohms. It's designed, of course, to drive their flagship headphones. Of course, they're going to say that.
Yeah.
But they'll drive anything.
Yeah.
So no matter what your flagship headphone is, even if it's not made by Hi-Fi Man, at CanJam, if you have a chance to use an EF1000 DAC, you must. Because what I'll say is, if you're shopping for a flagship DAC, still, check out the EF1000 DAC. If you're shopping for a flagship headphone amp, try the EF1000 DAC. Because it just happens to have both of those things in one single very large chassis. Connectivity I want to mention very quickly too. It uses some pretty classic audiophile component design, right?
It does.
With what we're talking about. But there's some new touches as well, kind of new tech touches. So in addition to the RCA inputs, outputs, and then the XLR, you also have the USB input, of course, for the DAC.
Optical coax. And Bluetooth.
That's what I wanted to get to, is
Yeah.
the Bluetooth. So it also has Bluetooth, which is cool.
Yeah.
And that supports AAC, SBC, aptX, aptX HD, and LDAC.
Yeah.
I found that quite unexpected, and given the type of component it is, but it's actually very cool to have.
I agree. And there's something else unexpected too on the back of this. There's a toggle for oversampling and non-oversampling modes.
Oh yeah, that's right.
You can switch back and forth between those while you're listening.
Yes, so that the effect happens in real time, right?
Yeah.
The change happens in real time, so you can hear the difference between oversampling, non-oversampling modes. Thank you for reminding me. So again, no matter what you're shopping for, whether it's a flagship DAC amp combo or a flagship DAC, flagship amp separately, you have to try the EF1000 DAC at CanJam with your headphones because it's phenomenal.
Now, I want to take a second to talk about an R2R DAC that I think is going to appeal to R2R DAC aficionados who are on a budget, or even potentially R2R DAC aficionados who are yet to become aficionados.
Yeah.
This is Hi-Fi Man's EF500, and the EF500 is the most affordable desktop DAC amp system, I believe, with Hi-Fi Man's Himalaya architecture inside of it.
I think
this one has the Himalaya LE, so that's their entry-level DAC. And even though it's an entry-level R2R DAC inside of this, it has some excellent specs. So the EF500 comes in under $500, so just keep that in mind. This can output up to 4.5 watts into 32 ohms, so it has a good amount of drive. And we've even used it with great success on the Susvara and Susvara Unveiled.
Yes, we have.
So when you think about it, you're driving flagship class headphones with a headphone DAC amp combo that's definitely not flagship in price.
Right. One of the amps that you should consider, if you've gone broke.
Yeah.
Buying a
headphone.
Susvara.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So inputs, you have standard USB, but that's USB-C, which I appreciate. It does have coax, and it also has Ethernet LAN, so you can network connect this, which is very, very nice. Outputs, pretty standard again. You've got dual 3-pin XLR stereo RCA on the back. On the front for headphones, you got 4-pin XLR and 6.35 millimeter outputs. It also has a really cool dial on the front, which allows you to switch between a couple different modes. 2 of those are high and low gain, pretty standard, but they also come with different pairings for oversampling and non-oversampling modes. So you've got a high gain oversampled, low gain oversampled, etc. You can switch back and forth between them. So if you're running a low gain device, you can pop back and forth between those two and actually hear the difference.
Yeah, especially
live.
the difference between oversampling and not oversampling.
Yeah.
Right, which I think a lot of people are curious about. You'll hear it and try them both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's also pretty quiet too, as far as a fantastic
Self-noise.
system. It's very, very flexible with what you want to pair with it.
Yes, I agree.
So stop by the exhibit. Definitely check out the Hi-Fi Man EF500.
If you're looking to listen to some of the most difficult to find sources here in the U.S., Music Tech's CanJam Dallas exhibit cannot be missed. Let's take a look at some of the new releases from Kayan and Luxury and Precision, which you'll be able to audition at CanJam, and Music Tech will have a lot more than these. For the last several years, buying a portable headphone amplifier usually meant getting a portable DAC amp.
Right.
The dedicated amp, however, seems to be making a resurgence.
Yeah, I can think of a few.
Yeah, this is one of them.
Yeah.
This is the Kayan C92. I love this thing. So at first I was, when it arrived, it really caught me off guard because, I was admittedly a little irritated. I had to go find a DAC to use with it because it didn't come with its own.
We have 1 or 2 around.
We have a lot, yeah. And honestly, it was worth it.
Yeah.
So I fell in love with this thing because it is a portable tube amplifier. I am a tube audio enthusiast, have been since I was essentially a kid. It's fully discrete, fully symmetric differential headphone amplifier. It uses Gen 5 Korg new tube 6P1 vacuum tubes. And I feel like Kayan, like they figured out a way to get more out of the Korg new tubes. I've heard some fantastic devices using Korg new tubes, but I feel like Kayan was able to find more from them that allows this to sound more like a desktop tube amp sound to me.
Yeah.
3 amp modes for the C92's discrete headphone amplification circuit. Class A, Class AB, and Hyper. You guys are probably familiar with Class A and Class AB. The Hyper mode is for ultimate performance of the C92's discrete amplification circuit at the expense of shorter battery duration and a higher temperature. I keep it in Hyper.
And that seems like a fair trade-off too.
Yeah, I usually switch between A and Hyper just to see, and I usually end up on Hyper. But and frankly, I've been using it actually for a while today, and I still have full batteries. So we'll get to battery life in just a second. Three timbre options: classic tube for a richer presentation, modern tube for a slightly cleaner tube sound, and solid state. So there is a solid state mode and 2 different tube modes. I usually keep it in classic mode. No big surprise if you know me, because I like that richer presentation. Negative feedback modes. There's a button here where you can switch that on or off. I think most people are going to hear a difference.
Right.
Play with it. I usually have it on. Anode modes, so you can change the anode voltage, high or low. I have mine on high. Total number of shaping options then for sound, like 12 different options, I think is what you arrive at. And it outputs up to 4.1 watts per channel into 16 ohms. So there's quite a bit of drive. I used it with the Hi-Fi Man Susvara Unveiled and a bunch of other headphones too. And it drives it beautifully.
Yeah.
So I found the Susvara Unveiled does really well with really good tube amps. And this really did a nice, beautiful job with it. And I've tried it with in-ears as well.
Yeah.
So try with in-ears and low gain mode. So there's 2 different gain modes. I should have mentioned that. Replaceable batteries.
Yes.
They pop right out, no tools.
Yeah, I appreciate that because it means fewer devices ending up in landfills.
Yeah.
And all batteries die eventually. So you don't have to send it off for service. You don't have to toss it. You can just pop it out. Like you said, no tools. There's a little, like a sled inside. Pop the sled out, pop the new batteries in, pop it right back in.
And you charge it via USB-C, which is really handy. And you get up to 17 and a half hours of runtime on a full charge. Again, I've been using it and I still have full batteries. This thing is fantastic. So even if you're not a tube audio enthusiast, because maybe you just haven't spent time with tube amps and you're curious, the KN-C92 is a great place to start. Honestly, when I plug into this, my ears tell me that my eyes should be seeing, on the other end of that headphone cable, a bigger chassis with tube sticking out of it. Something kind of more old-fashioned looking, but instead you get this modern-looking portable amp, and I love it. This is the KN N63 portable digital audio player. After using and enjoying this, it makes me wonder why on earth we've spent so little time with KN DAPs over the years.
It's a good question.
And they have so many well-regarded models in our community. I mean, like, very well-regarded. We're going to need to change that. We're going to have to get one in the rotation here at Headphone HQ. So the N63 is the successor to the N62.
Yes.
Now, I'm not as familiar with the N62, so I can't make point-for-point comparisons except for in one key way, which is screen size. So we'll get to that. So what does the N63 have inside? Qualcomm Snapdragon 665 processor with 6 gigs of RAM.
Right.
Snappy user interface. This is important to both of us. Probably important to you guys too. 128 gigs internal storage with 1 TF micro SD card slot.
Yep.
So that you can expand storage. Android 12, 5-inch TFT display. I'll get back to that. Swappable motherboard modules. Note, though, not compatible with N62 motherboards.
Yes.
Keep that in mind. 9,000 milliamp hour battery. That's a pretty darn sizable battery.
Oh, yeah.
And we don't know the specs, though, for depletion, for runtime, and we haven't run it to depletion. So I don't know how long it'll last, but that's a big battery. 2.4 gig, 5 gig dual band Wi-Fi, Bluetooth 5.0. All right. Swappable motherboard.
Yes.
This one comes default with something called a C201 audio motherboard module. That has 8 CS43198 DAC chips. 8? 8. 3.5 millimeter, 4.4 millimeter headphone out, 3.5 millimeter, 4.4 millimeter line out. Now let's get back to that screen. The N62 had a 4.2 inch screen.
Right.
Now, apparently what people liked about the N62 a lot was that you could use it with a single hand.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
I have little hands, so that would be a nice thing to be able to do because most of the DAPs I use are quite large. I didn't realize how much I'd enjoy that. Now, going to a 5-inch screen, which is significantly bigger, they had to get clever. So what they did is they made the front panel pretty much an all-screen design, and they did that by tucking the playback controls and volume essentially underneath the screen.
Yeah.
And so this is usable with one hand, even with little tiny hands like mine, which is very nice. Never thought I would really totally dig that, and I do. So that's not the only thing I like about it. The user interface is very nice.
Yeah.
Again, snappy. The music app is nice. I like the customizations inside. And it sounds fantastic with this C201. I'm curious to know what the other modules will sound like. But the C201 sounds fantastic with everything I tried with it. Went with an entry-level IEM with the Singolo.
Yeah.
That punches way above its price, though.
Yeah, it does.
And then I went as high as, I'm trying to think what, well, right before we were shooting here, I was using the Forte Ears Macbeth.
Yeah.
Flagship class stuff. With everything I plugged into the N63, it sounds fantastic. So if you're not familiar, like we are not as familiar as we should be, with KN DAPs at CanJam, familiarize yourself with them. And if you are already a KN DAP enthusiast, I'm guessing you haven't already tried the N63, so make sure to do so at CanJam. Now here at Headphone HQ, we obviously have a lot of audio gear come through here, and every once in a while something will arrive without a manual, an owner's manual. And 99% of the time that happens, we're fine. We figure it out very quickly. And then something like this arrives. This is the Luxury and Precision EA4. It's a flagship portable high-powered tube amp, uses Korg 6P1 new tubes.
Right.
Fantastic amp. Arrives without an owner's manual. We really, really could have used one. I'll go over that in a second. So I did notice in the specs, first thing I noticed, outputs up to 6,500 milliwatts into 32 ohms. And then I really noticed, and that's a lot of juice, it outputs up to 1,200 milliwatts into 300 ohms. Now, into 300 ohms, that's a lot. Even from a desktop amp, you don't usually see a number like that.
Right.
So the first headphone I grabbed was the Sennheiser HD800S. 300 ohm headphone, and also actually one of the last headphones I'll use to test a portable amp, certainly never from the start. But that's what I started with when I saw that number, plugged it in, after some dead reckoning, a lot of trial and error, ended up at a gorgeous sound with those. Like, those can thrive with great tube amps, and I was thriving with the HD800S in these. So let's talk about the switches on the front. Again, we could use a manual. So there are 4 switches on the front. One is ILA and ILH. We still, to this day, don't know what those stand for.
Right.
And we did try to find out, but in ILH, things got louder, changes the sound a little bit. And then there's a switch that allows you to select 13 volts or 15 volts for the power supply voltage. For the Sennheisers, I was at 15. Then there's a switch that I believe allows you to choose between CC mode, because it's labeled CC, that's constant current, or CV, constant voltage. I think that's for powering the tube filaments. So for the Sennheiser, I was at CV. And then the other one I was able to figure out, because that was easy, H and L, high and low gain. Sennheisers, high gain. Then there's a dial. So the dial, they say, is Class AB to Class A mode with 11 adjustable static current levels. So you can go Class AB, Class A, or in between. Just being an old school audiophile, I went to Class A automatically, just assumed that's going to be better. Anyway, with all those settings, the Sennheiser HD800S sounded glorious through this. And then I found a post on HeadFi by someone named Frank Liu D, who's very coincidentally and very fortunately had some setting recommendations with this amp specifically for the HD800S.
Right.
We had all the same settings, except he went to Class AB. I tried it, and I understand, Frank, why you did what you did. Anyway, beautiful tube sound with the HD800S. I have to agree with Frank. I think Class AB was the better setting for that. So then I get an in-ear, because I want to see what an in-ear will do with it. I chose the Kiwi Ears, the Critical Kiwi Ears Singolo.
Yeah.
And the reason was it's only $79. I figured with that much output power, if I plugged it in and something went wrong, I could pay $79 and replace those. Sorry, Critical. Anyways, so I plugged it in. Nothing bad happened at all.
Yeah.
I was in low gain to start and got beautiful sound again. Now for that, I played around, ended up back at Class A, went to ILA instead of ILH, 13V, and then constant current instead. And no self-noise, sounded gorgeous. And then I went to a whole bunch of other headphones over ear and tried those. I won't go over all those in different settings. Here's the thing I was able to always do. I was always able to get great tube sound, tube amp sound, no matter what I plugged into it so far. And that makes a tube enthusiast like me very happy. As far as why it was quiet with the Singalos, I would guess it has something to do with the fact that there's a lot of attention to detail on the tube damping. They use like 8 silicone buffers.
Right.
The battery supply uses 6 Panasonic 18650 low internal resistance battery cells. And the internal resistance variance between cells is less than 0.5 milliohms. So a lot of precision inside. And if you look at the specs, you'll see a lot of fancy parts listed. And they discuss the precision with which they use those parts. Anyway, at CanJam, you have to check out the Luxury and Precision EA4, whether you're a tube enthusiast or not. It's just so fun to use, and you won't blow anything up, and it really could use an owner's manual.
Woo Audio will be joining us at CanJam, and they'll be showing their latest flagship, the WA24 20th Anniversary Edition. As you may have already guessed from the name, the WA24 celebrates 20 years of Woo Audio, so happy belated birthday, Woo Audio. Now, the WA24 is a single-ended all-tube Class A amplifier with 0 feedback operation. Its 2-tier CNC machined aluminum chassis is milled from a single block of aluminum, and inside you'll find new streamlined and refined circuit topology and oversized in-house developed output transformers. Other improvements include insulated active and passive components, an in-house developed step-up driver, and an Alps Alpine RK50 volume potentiometer. Woo Audio says that the WA24 delivers pitched dark background noise with most full-size headphones and is suitable for many in-ear monitors. The tubes are custom-made 3A109E vacuum tubes in a closely matching quad set. Woo Audio first showed the WA24 20th Anniversary Edition at CanJam SoCal 2024, and it was one of the show highlights for many in the impressions thread. Hear it for yourself at CanJam. We are always excited to see Cord electronics gear at CanJam because Cord makes some of our reference sources here at Head-Fi HQ. If you're looking for portables, be sure not to miss the Cord Electronics Hugo 2 and the Mojo 2, two incredible portable DAC amp combos. Cord Electronics will also have some of our high-reference desktop gear at their exhibit, sources like their flagship Dave, their reviewer's dream source, the Hugo TT2, and the IMP scaler, which can take both the Dave and the Hugo TT2, and even the portable Hugo 2, to all new heights. If you've never experienced gear from Cord Electronics before, or if it's simply been a while, make sure not to miss it at CanJam. Headamp's CFA3 is finally in production, so if you've been waiting to see the finished version, be sure to check it out at CanJam. The Headamp CFA3 is Headamp's reimagined production of Kevin Gilmore's best solid-state balanced headphone amplifier. They've spent over 2 years designing the CFA3 from the ground up. So, make sure to check out the CFA3 alongside the rest of Headamp's headphone amplifiers, including the amp that's still regarded by many as one of the very best electrostatic headphone amplifiers with their Headamp Blue Hawaii. Before we go, there are a couple more exhibitors who will be at CanJam Dallas that you won't want to miss, starting with Audma. Audma will be traveling all the way from Italy to join us in Texas, and they'll be bringing their Maestro HPA-1 for you to audition. With an AKM AK4490 REQ DAC, automatic voltage switching, a dual mono power supply, and VU meters, the Maestro HPA-1 is a must-hear desktop amplifier. Planet Venus Audio is a name that's new to me, and at CanJam Dallas they'll be showing off a software suite for Mac called Spectral Coherence Control, or SCC. Planet Venus Audio says that their Spectral Coherence Control essentially allows you to tune the overall sound quality to your desired target playback environment. Be sure to visit their CanJam Dallas exhibit to learn all about SCC. There's much more to CanJam than just gathering listening impressions. For example, it's the perfect place to grow your headphone knowledge. At CanJam Dallas this year, there will be a number of presentations, talks, and discussions taking place that you won't want to miss. Each of these seminars will be taking place in the Mesquite 2 room, which is located just around the corner from the main exhibit hall. Now, these seminars do tend to fill quickly, so be sure to get there early to secure the perfect seat.
At CanJam Dallas, our seminar schedule kicks off Saturday, November 2nd at noon with a talk titled, "These Are the Dark Ages, The Problems of Current Headphone Measurements." This seminar will be presented by Blaine Lacrosse from Headphones.com, who many of you know as Mad Economist. Headphones have been measured for over 50 years now, and yet we still can't predict listeners' impressions of headphones like we can with speakers. In the absence of good predictive results from measurements, we've entered an era of fundamental doubt about the ability of objective measures to provide a full analysis of headphones, and many completely unevidenced measurements have been proposed to fill this gap. We have progress, but also dogma, mysticism, confusion, and fanatical interpretations of what audio data is and means. We are in the dark ages. These problems won't be solved quickly, but let's identify them to start working towards the headphone renaissance.
Continuing our Saturday seminar schedule, come join Rob Watts, digital design consultant for Cord Electronics, for Digital Isn't at 2 p.m. Digital is digital, it's all ones and zeros, except that no, it isn't. Beyond the fundamentals of the digital to analog conversion process, there are a host of additional factors that can dramatically affect the sound quality of your DAC, and consequently, what you will hear through your signal chain. Discover how power supplies, analog devices and circuit design, galvanic isolation, digital cables, and more can dictate your listening experience. But, most importantly, learn how sometimes digital isn't.
Closing out our Saturday seminars, join Tal Kosin, Deconi Audio's co-founder and COO, for a presentation called From Tin Foil to Digital, Tracing the Evolution of Sound Recording. This seminar gets underway at 3 p.m. Thomas Edison invented the phonograph in 1877, marking the first device capable of recording and playing back sound. However, there's more to that incredible story than you might think, and other players involved you may not realize were a part of it. This period laid the groundwork for modern audio technology, transforming how sound could be preserved, reproduced, and ultimately shared with the world. Join Tal while he describes early recording and demonstrates the use of an original vintage standard Edison phonograph from the early 1900s.
Kicking off our Sunday seminar lineup at 2 p.m. on November 3rd, Rob Watts will once again take to the floor for Critical Listening: How to Judge. Many designers use listening tests to improve the design of their products. But since the provenance of recordings are unknown, how can one be sure that genuine improvements are being made so that real progress towards transparent reproduction is being achieved? It is very easy to think that an improvement is better when it's actually worse. Objectively assessing sound quality is key, and this seminar will explain how. This will be followed by a Q&A session when you can ask Rob any question about digital audio.
And finally, bringing the CanJam Dallas 2024 seminar schedule to a close, come join Ron Meyer, founder of Planet Venus Audio Technologies, LLC, for a discussion he's calling A Cure for Listener Fatigue? Yes, see and hear how it happens, at 3 p.m. Low-level distortion is present in all audio. It is a byproduct of the various limitations in recording and playback processes. Ron will explain how it happens, show you where it can be seen in audio waveforms, and let you hear what it sounds like. Then discover how new technology can surgically remove the distortion without affecting the underlying original audio. Watch and listen as he demonstrates how to easily and selectively remove distortion to improve your listening enjoyment.
Again, each of these seminars will be taking place in the Mesquite 2 room, located just around the corner from the main exhibit hall. Get there early to grab a seat, and be sure to bring any and all questions you may have on each topic. It'll be the perfect time to expand your knowledge and learn more about this hobby we all love.
So this is the Hi-Fi Man HE1000 unveiled. Yes, the HE1000 has now received the unveiled treatment that started with the Susvara unveiled.
Yes, it
What
has.
that simply means is there is a magnetic veil, a magnetic cover that you put on when you're not listening to it to protect the back of the driver, because when you take that magnetic veil off, which you must always do when you're going to listen to it, it exposes the back of the driver completely.
Yeah, because it's extremely exposed.
Extremely exposed.
Yeah.
And this would make it the second fully open back design planar magnetic headphone from Hi-Fi Man.
Yeah, fully open back.
That's the keyword, is fully. And as with the Susvara unveiled, it's designed to eliminate the negative effects of sound wave reflections. Now, there's something about that unveiled concept that definitely seems to be working.
I
because
agree.
there are some consistent changes between this and the original HE1000s and the Susvara unveiled and the original Susvara.
Right.
Let me explain. So when I first heard the original HE1000, because there have been a few different models of it.
Yeah.
I first heard the original one, I don't even know.
Oh, that was ages ago.
Yeah, a zillion years ago.
Yeah.
I think it was at a CES. And I was completely blown away by it because of its flagship resolution.
Yep.
And I think it was the flagship in the Hi-Fi Man line until the Susvara was released.
Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, it was also the first headphone to come out with their nanometer diaphragm.
Yeah, you're not mistaken, actually. You are correct.
Yeah.
So that HE1000 has been a staple in this community ever since the first model was released.
Yeah.
For good reason, for that flagship resolution. This does, though, again, what the Susvara unveiled did for the Susvara. It improves resolution, but it also, to my ears, has a smoother treble performance than maybe any other HE1000 I've heard.
Okay.
So it would be the least bright to my ears.
Right.
I haven't measured it, so I can't say I confirm that with measurements or anything, but to my ears, it sounds smoother, and it has the most balanced signature of any of the HE1000s I've heard, and that's saying something. So, and yet it's more resolving.
Right.
And that's kind of how I describe the Susvara unveiled versus the original Susvara.
Yeah, exactly.
So an incredible headphone has become even more incredible. Frankly, it's a lot less expensive than the Susvara unveiled.
Oh, no question.
Like way less expensive.
Yeah.
But I guess that's what we deal with in this industry, right? Is kind of diminishing returns.
Yeah.
So the Susvara unveiled is unquestionably more resolving. It is the better headphone objectively. Just it's incredible.
No doubt.
But this comes way closer to it at its price than I would have expected it to.
Yeah.
It's that good. I guess it makes sense that you're the one holding that one
Why is that?
because you helped name a part of it, a key part of it.
That's true.
So I'll explain that in a second. You know what the story is. So that is the Hi-Fi Man Susvara unveiled.
Yeah.
This is Hi-Fi Man's flagship non-electrostatic headphone.
Right.
It joins the original Susvara in the line, but doesn't replace it.
Right.
But it's above it. It's
Yes.
clearly the new flagship. And let's explain why it's called the unveiled.
Yeah, for sure. So this comes off.
That comes off. And that is a cover that you take off when you want to listen to it. You put on when you're not listening to it to protect the driver.
Yes.
Because when you take it off, it becomes the Susvara unveiled. Let me explain. Hi-Fi Man says the Susvara unveiled is the first fully open back design planar magnetic headphone. Fully open back.
I do like that word.
You take that cover off and you expose the back of the motor structure of the driver. It's completely exposed. And they say it eliminates the negative effects of sound wave reflections. Now let me complete the story. So that cover didn't have a name
Yeah, that's true.
originally. And so Brian said, well, I guess they should call it the Veil.
Yeah.
Since it's called the Susvara Unveiled, right? And so we messaged Fang, the founder of Hi-Fi Man, with the idea, and he said, you know what, I like that. Let's go with it. And now they call it the Magnetic Veil.
Yep.
You're a branding expert, Brian.
I am.
So I can't talk about this Susvara Unveiled without talking about the original Susvara a little bit, because the original Susvara, I think the community considered pretty widely as the most resolving non-electrostatic headphone.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly one of them that you could buy at any price.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I think you do too. And then this comes out, and they make it marginally more resolving.
Yeah.
They refined the treble to my ears. They have smoothed the treble out a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually haven't measured that one, so I don't know if it's measurably smoother, but it sounds like smoother, more refined treble to my ears.
Right.
And it's a little more sensitive.
Yeah.
But maybe even more important than the sensitivity, and it's not just the sensitivity, I find it to be easier to pair with other amps.
That is true.
Whereas the original Susvara, you had to be very careful about how you paired it.
Yeah,
not just for power, but for synergy.
Yeah, you had to find that right combination, but when you did, you were rewarded for it amply. It was just a great little experience.
Good. Is that intentional?
Not really, but I'll take
Amply.
it. Yeah.
Good one. So you were rewarded handsomely if you had the right pairing. With the Susvara Unveiled, though, it's much less picky in that regard, in my experience. So it is more sensitive, but it's beyond just the sensitivity.
Yeah.
It's easier to find synergy. I mean, I can plug it into almost anything that can drive it.
Yes.
So flagship tube amp,
mm-hmm.
some of the ones that we tried with it, absolutely incredible.
Oh, yeah.
And then today I was running it out of the solid state FIO K19, incredible.
Yeah, and we've also paired it with some more budget-friendly, modest amplifiers that still sound fantastic.
I know which one you're thinking of, the Shit Audio Midgard.
Exactly.
$220.
Yep.
Beautiful pairing.
Yeah.
And I also drive it with my digital audio players that have nice, healthy output.
Yeah.
And it sounds beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
So this, to me, is one of the most important improvements of the Susvara Unveiled. Yes, it's more resolving. Yes, it's marginally more resolving.
Yes.
Yes, it has a more refined treble performance to my ears, which I didn't think I wanted out of the original Susvara, but I guess now that I hear that, I do. And it's just a lot easier to pair with stuff, to be rewarded, as you said, amply.
Yeah.
So that right there is a completely worthy Hi-Fi Man flagship, the Susvara Unveiled. I think in the world of head-fi, when we hear or see the word wireless, there's kind of a bias, I think, with a lot of us. I'm one of them.
Yeah, that's true.
Where it reduces expectations.
Mm-hmm.
This kind of wiped that away for me.
Yeah.
So this is the Hi-Fi Man Ananda BT R2R.
Right.
So BT is Bluetooth, R2R is R2R DAC. I'm going to actually, let's talk, I'll let you talk about some of the improvements versus the original Ananda BT.
Yeah, so like the name implies, this has an R2R DAC inside, which the Ananda BT did not. It does feature Hi-Fi Man's Himalaya DAC, which is an R2R system that they developed in-house, and I'm happy to say this has the full Himalaya. It doesn't have the Himalaya LE, which is kind of like a lighter version of the Himalaya.
Yeah.
They've gone full hog, and it just sounds so nice in the integration, the way they integrated it.
Yeah.
It also has a couple of improvements that we didn't have on the original Ananda BT because they came after the Ananda BT came out. First of which is the stealth magnets. You'll find those in here because they were not out for the Ananda BT. It also has a lighter, thinner diaphragm material, which is going to enhance the sound quality as well.
Yeah.
And then we have a microphone array, and this is a 2-microphone array. If you recall, the original Ananda BT had a boom microphone. This is a built-in 2-microphone system, which is cool because it allows you to do some cool DSP features. It does a little bit of outside noise rejection, so it kind of brings the din down around you if you're talking to somebody on, say, a phone call. And I believe it also has some like echo.
Yeah, it has echo and
cancellation.
reverb cancellation as well,
which is really, really cool.
Now, in terms of wireless, it supports aptX HD, and LDAC.
Mm-hmm.
I paired this with my Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra, put it in LDAC mode.
Yeah,
phenomenal. So LDAC, with a lot of LDAC products I've used, the connections can be a bit unstable. Mm-hmm. This has a rock solid LDAC connection with my Samsung.
Yeah.
So I love that about it. I don't have to tweak any of the settings in developer mode to reduce rate and everything. It's just stable. And I love that about it. You can also use it wired with USB-C.
Yeah, which is great if you're an iPhone user.
Correct.
Newer iPhone.
A new iPhone, and you want to use that to get like full resolution.
Exactly.
But if you have an Android phone that supports especially LDAC,
mm-hmm.
you're in for a treat. And it's at its price, it's not just fantastic for a wireless headphone.
Yeah.
It is fantastic, period, at the price.
Mm-hmm.
That it's wireless is incredible for that level of freedom. I'm actually way more excited about this than I thought I'd be, given that it's wireless. And I love that it's their R2R DAC architecture. So again, if you're an R2R DAC enthusiast, you're going to love this thing. Headphones.com will be joining us at CanJam Dallas this year, and they're also one of our CanJam Dallas sponsors. So thank you, Headphones.com, for helping make CanJam Dallas possible this year. Headphones.com will be showing off some incredible full-size headphones that you won't want to miss from DMS, Head Audio, Focal, and many more. So let's take a look at some of what they'll be bringing. Now, a lot of the most popular reviewers in the headphone world, you go by nicknames?
Yeah, like Jude.
I go by Jude. I'm not one of the more popular reviewers, though. But anyway, so some of the most popular reviewers go by nicknames.
Yes.
Actually, a lot of them.
A lot of them do.
I call them by their real names.
Yeah.
So Douglas, I'm calling you Douglas, but you guys know him as DMS.
Yeah.
And DMS developed a really cool headphone called the DMS Project Omega. Unfortunately, we don't actually have one with us right now.
We don't.
But we have
had it before.
Correct.
Yes.
A couple times, actually.
Yeah.
And spent time with it. Lovely headphone.
Yeah.
I would say in terms of tonal balance, because he was, I don't remember neutrality was something I think he was definitely shooting for.
I think so.
And I would say it's on, for me, the lighter side of my neutral range in the bass.
Yeah.
Right? So I would say a more perceived flat-sounding bass.
Yeah.
But I still really enjoyed them.
I think you did a fantastic job there.
Yeah. You really liked it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so because I think that one kind of hits more in your range.
It's closer to me.
More
Between
the
the
center
two
of your
of
range.
us. Yeah.
I guess we should talk about what it is. It's an open back dynamic headphone that DMS, Douglas, has designed and manufactures.
Yeah.
With a 3D printed housing, handcrafted in Tennessee, with a repairable modular design. Comes with Headphones.com's Listen More cable.
Yeah.
Terminated in 6.35 millimeters. And they were only to be sold for a year, I believe, after which they'll be open sourced.
Yeah. So once it hits that 1 year mark from the first batch, because he does batch runs of the headphone, then it's going to be available for anyone, but they're not going to be selling it anymore at that point. So if you want to pick one up, you kind of got to do it now while it's still at headphones.com. Otherwise, you're going to be assembling it yourself.
Right. And I'm just so not handy.
That's not really a you project.
That's not a me project for sure. So the DMS Project Omega headphone is just so cool.
Now, we're holding a couple of headphones from Focal, and we've done a full review video on both of these, so definitely check that out if you haven't already. This is the Focal Audinese and Focal Azuris, and these two headphones, they share a lot of similarities. So they share a similar platform to the Focal Batiste. They share the same 40mm M-shaped dome. It's a aluminum magnesium M-shaped dome, and that's an M-shaped dome that we've seen in a few other headphones, I believe.
Yeah, the exact same dome that they've used in the Elier, I think the Celestie.
Yeah.
The original Clear.
Yes.
The Radiance.
Yeah, same dome. The driver assembly has changed a little bit since those headphones, but it is the same dome.
Yes.
They also share a 26 ohm impedance, and they both share a sound signature that could work in pro environments.
Yes.
So I'm holding the Audinese because the Audinese of the two headphones is my definite preference. It sounds fantastic. It has a very nice, clear, resolving sound, very linear. And like I mentioned, you could use it for work if you want to. I have used both of these headphones here on HeadFi TV projects, but between the two, this is my pick, hands down.
Yeah, I prefer the Azuris. I will give you I will say I agree with you that the Audinese, it takes advantage of its open back nature.
Yes.
So just to be clear, that's an open back headphone. The Azuris is a closed back headphone. And the Audinese, I think, takes advantage of that, has some advantages that sometimes come with open back, right? Headphones. But the thing about the Azuris is being closed back. I live in a pretty small house, quite small actually, and so not leaking music to those who aren't wearing it is important to me. And so it gives me a lot more flexibility in terms of use cases go. But like you said, the sound signature for both headphones is, as I've described it, I think maybe in the video, well within my range of neutrality. Like you said, you could use them in a studio environment if you want
absolutely.
to. And in the video, which Brian mentioned, the reviewed video that we did of these, we do have measurement comparisons, and of course, subjective impressions. I think we even talked about the pro audio side. But the thing that I guess the gist of these headphones, if I had to summarize it, is they bring so much of the magic of the full size, the flagship class Focals, the other made in France headphones.
Yeah.
All of which are significantly more expensive than these.
Exactly.
Some of which are way more expensive than these. And it brings them to a portable platform. And that is why they're selling so well.
Yeah.
They are immensely popular, and they're just fantastic headphones for the price. And honestly, I think they're the best value headphones right now that Focal probably makes. And like I said, that's why they're doing so well. So if you haven't already heard the Audinese and the Azuris, make sure to do so. So this is the Focal Batiste. This is one of the only Bluetooth ANC headphones that you and I both use for listening to music.
Yes.
Dedicatedly.
Yes.
And that is an immensely important role, something that I love having the option to do.
I agree.
Because sometimes I'm moving around. I don't want to be tied by wire to a rig, and it's just me, my phone, and this.
Yeah.
And that I love. Actually, this one's the one you've been
that's
using.
mine.
So there's another colorway, the Dune colorway, that's more of a what is that? A beige?
It's
off-white.
It's creamy. Yeah.
Creamy.
Yeah.
I'm colorblind,
Sandy.
so I have to count on you. Yeah, I prefer the Dune colorway. You prefer this one.
I like
so
the black, yeah.
we're happy that we have them both here. So this one's the one you use mostly. Now this headphone has 40 millimeter aluminum magnesium M-shaped dome driver. That dome is the same dome used in many of their flagship class models.
Yeah.
So that same dome. It has Bluetooth 5.1 with SBC, AAC, aptX, and aptX Adaptive, which is very nice. If you use Android, it's nice because the aptX is there, or if you use some other device that supports that. But it still sounds beautiful with an iPhone.
Yeah,
and
I don't
AAC.
have aptX, and that sounds great to me.
Yeah, I carry an Android phone and an Apple phone. You carry only an Apple phone.
Yeah.
So it has the active noise cancellation with silent and soft modes plus transparency.
I do like that it has multi-stage active
Yeah.
noise cancellation, which is nice.
So yeah, the transparency function is also very nice because if you're in a work environment or at home, sometimes if you're around other people, you want to hear what's going on. It has 30 hours of battery life, which is good.
Yep.
And you can listen wired via 3.5 millimeter or USB-C. And then there's also a Mimi Hearing app for personalization. I haven't used that.
I haven't either because
yeah.
I just use the profiles that are built in.
It does have EQ settings in an app, right? So those EQ settings are actually, and you can customize the EQ.
Yeah.
They're very useful. And there's even a Harman preset.
Yeah.
So if you want to hear it tuned more like Harman, then that's nice that it's available for you. I think some people will prefer it that way.
Yeah.
The default signature for me is what I listen to the most. I tend to prefer that one's a little richer in tone than the Harman signature, but I still switch to the Harman signature as well sometimes. So this headphone, for those reasons, the fact that we can dedicatedly listen to music through it wirelessly, the fact that it has ANC and transparency is just such a huge win. And so the Focal Batiste for an audiophile is a rare type of headphone. Now, these are Focal's flagship headphones. You're holding the open back flagship, the Focal Utopia. That's the 2022 edition, which in the community we often call the Utopia 2022. And this is their closed back flagship, Focal Stellia. These are headphones that we've done video reviews of each of them.
Yeah.
Make sure to check those out because they're quite a bit more detailed than we could ever have a chance to do here. Where we show measurement comparisons. And even for the Utopia 2022, we show kind of like a torture test of the driver outside the headphone, showing full excursion in slow motion including. So check that out. Anyway, so these headphones, what makes them both so special, I would say, are the solid beryllium drivers. That's not something that is common. In fact, I can't think of any other headphones that use solid beryllium domes offhand. And these use the same 40 millimeter M-shaped solid beryllium domes in very different drivers, though, for each. Now, I want to talk really quickly about the build, just because before I get to the sound, because these are their flagship headphones. They're French flagships.
Yep.
And, you know, they're very much French flagship headphones. They're stylish.
They are.
And the materials are stunning. We are both leather goods enthusiasts. And these have very beautiful leather, like high-quality leather that you'd expect to find on high-quality leather goods. Different leathers for both. But that's something we're both very enthusiastic about with them. But the most important thing, of course, is the sound quality.
Yeah.
And the Utopia 2022, their open back flagship, is within my range of neutrality. And versus the original Utopia, what I love about it is I don't have to EQ it. The original Utopia, I would sometimes EQ to take some treble out, put a little bass in. They've done enough with that one to refine the treble, because there were changes to the driver as well that refine and smooth the treble. So I don't EQ it there. And the tonal balance tweaks they've done to it give it more richness. So I don't EQ it, and it's lovely now to have a Utopia that I don't have to EQ. The Stellia, the closed back flagship, is a richer toned headphone. It has some bass emphasis for sure, but because of, I think, the solid beryllium dome driver, there's so much resolution for a closed back with that kind of tonality especially. And of all the closed back headphones in the world, this is probably one of my two favorite like reference closed back headphones.
Right.
These are spectacular headphones. These are Focal's flagships, and they're not to be missed, especially if you haven't heard them. Make sure to watch our video as well. But anytime you have a chance to hear these, you should.
Now, Head Audio, HEDD Audio, they are no strangers to Head-Fi and CanJam. We've seen them at a number of shows. And if you look back at CanJam London 2023, that's where they launched the second generation of their headphone, which is their Air Motion Transformer headphone model. Well, the Headphone 2, that came out at CanJam London 2023, and they had a queue all weekend long, constantly in front of their table. CanJam London, that kind of got a repeat at CanJam SoCal 2024 when they released the Headphone 2 GT. Now, you've probably heard the term GT before, Gran Turismo or Grand Touring. It's, to me, that invokes the feel of comfort and relaxation and distance driving in a vehicle. And they were getting a lot of feedback from headfires and non-headfires alike that the Headphone 2, which is more of a studio headphone, isn't really something that they would listen to for long periods of time. They wanted something a little more mid-range presence, a little more low end, something a little more comfortable. So they said, okay, let's take that feedback, go back, make some tweaks. That came out with the Headphone 2 GT. Now, at CanJam SoCal 2024, they were at the headphones.com exhibit, and there was a constant line for that headphone. I didn't get to hear it myself because it was just steady all weekend long.
I didn't get to hear it either.
Yeah.
So Head is known for their AMT drivers. That's Air Motion Transformer drivers.
Yeah.
Very resolving drivers. Very fast.
Yeah.
Very resolving.
Mm-hmm.
The Headphone 2, that one, I enjoy that headphone immensely.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
But it is quite incisive.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to talk about the description of the GT from Head.
Yeah.
The GT adopts the analytical clarity of the 2, adding a warmer sonic signature and premium comfort experience. The new air compliance tuning system creates impactful bass alongside a warmer mid-range and sparkling top end.
And that's such a you sound based on the description.
Yeah, that's a me description.
Yeah.
And you might actually, just based on the description, prefer the original 2.
Given that, I think I'm probably going to lean more towards the 2.
Okay, so the CanJam SoCal 2024 impressions thread seems to bear that out.
That's
From what
true.
I've seen,
Yeah.
It seems to be consistent with what Head is describing.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that's something I need to hear. I didn't hear it either at CanJam SoCal 2024. So, I think for both of us now at this CanJam, we have to make sure to hear it.
Yep.
Now, I love me some electrostatic headphones.
You do.
Apparently, they make me use very bad grammar as well. I
Yeah.
talk like a caveman. But this is the Audeze Carbon 2.
Mm-hmm.
So very excited about this headphone. It was launched at CanJam SoCal 2024, and it incorporates a technology that Audeze developed for it called SLAM.
Yeah.
Which stands for Symmetric Linear Acoustic Modulator. I'm going to read what Audeze says about it. SLAM is tuned to enhance selected low frequencies while maintaining optimal air pressure distribution. SLAM gives Carbon 2 the most physical, lifelike bass response of any electrostatic headphone. SLAM optimizes air pressure distribution across the driver, allowing Carbon 2 to resolve more fine detail than any headphone in our history for incredibly immersive stereo imaging and soundstage presentation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's marketing copy, but I will say that's actually fair.
It is.
Now, I want a little caveat here, because when you hear the word SLAM and we talk about the bass emphasis or the bass enhancement, it might give the impression that this is like some sort of bass head electrostatic headphone.
Yeah, you may think that until you actually hear it.
Until you hear it, but it's not. This is not a bass head electrostatic headphone. The emphasis is very tastefully done. It's on the kind of the lower part of the lows to my ears.
Right.
And so it just gives it a little bit of physicality and impact that I need for my headphones. I will say also that it seems to do more than just the bass, like it affect the bass. I feel like it affects the whole driver somehow.
Yeah.
Like it allows the diaphragm, which is, it still uses the carbon nanotube embedded driver film, I feel like it allows it to breathe more freely, because the details they seem to be jumping off this headphone's diaphragm more than with the original carbon.
Yeah.
And I love that about it. I mean, this is to me a very worthy upgrade. And again, I'm not EQing it I'm not EQing it at all, actually. With the original carbon, I don't remember my exact EQ settings. I think I was taking down the upper mids a bit and then giving it a little bass enhancement. And for this, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
Now, for those of you not familiar with electrostatic headphones, I'll say it. I think some of the very best headphones ever made in the world are electrostatic. They don't use magnets.
Right.
I'm not going to explain the electrostatic principles right now, but they don't use magnets. There's no traces on the diaphragm. And so in many cases, and I'm sure it's true here, the diaphragm actually has lower mass than the air it's displacing to make the sound. So details can jump right off a very well-designed electrostatic driver. And with this, I feel the SLAM seems to be helping it do that even more versus, say, the original carbon. Fantastic headphone. I am an electrostatic headphone enthusiast. And so if you can't tell, I'm quite joyous about the Odyssey Carbon 2. This is a can't miss at CanJam. Okay, now I'm showing off just a little bit here.
A little bit.
A little bit.
Yeah.
So this is a limited edition. Can't get it anymore. Odyssey Maxwell. It's called the Ultraviolet Edition. I think it's sold out in like a day or two.
It did.
Yeah, it sold out very quickly. And the reason I'm showing it is because it was the Maxwell I had on hand for filming here.
Yeah, mine's at home.
Yeah, I have a normal one at home as well, like the non-ultraviolet edition one at home as well. So the Odyssey Maxwell, and I think we both agree on this, is the best gaming headset available today, period.
Hands down.
Hands down.
Yep.
It uses Odyssey's 90mm planar magnetic drivers, dual onboard amplifiers. I'm going to let you talk about the microphone array.
So actually, it's cool because it has the microphone array, which is a 5-mic beamforming array. It also has a boom microphone, which is detachable. And both microphone systems support Odyssey's filter technology. So it does noise isolation. It rejects some of the outside noise that's going on around you. So if you have a noisy environment or even if you're chewing, it does a great job rejecting that noise. I love that.
Right.
And, you know, if you're going to be gaming, it's nice to know this has an 80-hour battery life. Now, my girlfriend uses it for work as well as gaming. So it gets a lot of that 80-hour runtime within a week very easily, you know, 6 to 8 hours a day working and then gaming at night. It's very comfortable because it has a really nice headband system that you can easily just adjust the height, and it's very durable, far more durable than some other gaming headsets. A lot of people might end up breaking them, you know, in gamer rage fits and things like that.
Right. Actually, I think that was actually a factor in its design.
I think it might have been.
Right. To be more resistant to, as you said, gamer rage fits.
Exactly.
No, for real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's wireless, and it supports a lot of the modern codecs. So it has LE audio support, LC3 Plus support, and LDAC support, which is very nice to see. So when you're pairing it with an Xbox, if you get the Xbox version, or if you pair the Xbox version with PC, it also comes with a license for Dolby Atmos, which is really nice. And speaking of Atmos, anybody who uses this professionally, if you work
in a studio environment.
If you work in film, if you work in cinema, or if you work in television, Dolby Atmos Renderer also supports head tracking with the Atmos, which is very, very nice.
With the Maxwell.
Yeah. And then one thing I do want to mention, because I know I picked up a pair, Deconi Audio launched earpads that are velour earpads for the Maxwell. And I will tell you, if you want to increase the comfort on the Maxwell to no end, pick up a pair, and you're going to enjoy that because you can wear those for hours on end. Endless comfort.
Yeah, I use the stock pads. I don't have the Daconis. I should pick up a pair.
Yeah.
But I use the stock. Now, I don't game as much as you do. I use these mostly to listen to music wirelessly because in addition to being a gaming headset, they're also just fantastic. Honestly, they're great work headphones.
Yeah.
Because you can use them to talk on the phone.
Yep.
To do Zoom calls.
Zoom and Teams meetings, yep.
Correct. And then just fantastic sound quality for music listening. They're very musical wireless headphones that go for like 80 hours of charge. And they have selectable EQ as well.
Yeah.
You know, right on the headset, you can change the EQ. And there is a Harman-like tuning.
Right.
So if you're curious about that, you can just dial that in. So fantastic headphone. Best gaming headset. Now it's a studio headphone as well for Dolby Atmos. And just a great wireless headphone, period. Now, any flagship from Odyssey, if it's going to be at CanJam, has to be talked about.
Yeah.
And this is still their flagship planar magnetic headphone. This is the Odyssey LCD5. Now, we've actually done a full video review of the Odyssey LCD5 where we have, I believe, measurement comparisons, and, of course, objective impressions.
Right.
And this is still, to this day, one of the most resolving non-electrostatic headphones you can get to this very day. And let's talk about it. So, of course, it's a planar magnetic headphone. It uses Fluxor magnets, updated phaser waveguides. I'm looking at the notes. It says patent pending parallel uniforce voice coils. It's entirely possible that they've already received the patent on that.
I would think so by now.
Maybe they have.
Yeah.
Magnesium, acetate, and carbon fiber design. Absolutely gorgeous. Sculpted ear pad design. And at only 420 grams for a flagship headphone, that's actually a very reasonable weight. And I find that this newer style Odyssey flagships, headband style with this carbon fiber, by the way, which is gorgeous, is quite comfortable. It distributes the weight very beautifully. Now let's talk about the sound. Again, one of the most resolving non-electrostatic headphones you can buy today.
Yeah.
I think the default signature, just how it is how you listen to it.
Exactly.
I actually listen to it that way a lot too. However, I will sometimes EQ. I think the upper mid's down a bit. But man, that resolution on the Odyssey LCD5. So please do watch our video about the Odyssey LCD5. And if you're at CanJam, you can't not listen to, if you haven't heard it already, their flagship planar magnetic headphone. So now we're going to talk about a headphone that I really, really wish was here.
Yeah.
So of all the headphones that are not here at HeadFi HQ, this is at or near the top of my list of the ones I wish that were that aren't.
Yep.
And it's the RAL 1995 Imanis.
Mhm.
It's their flagship, and it's incredible.
Yeah.
So you guys might remember the RAL Requisite SR1A. It was a ribbon driver headphone that had adjustable angle earpieces. A bit finicky, though. So
It was.
when you got the angle dialed in for you, and it was almost like different, I think, for everybody.
Yeah.
And when you got it dialed in for you, it was quite groovy. Really good headphone. That said, the Imanis to me is orders of magnitude better. So the RAL Requisite SR1A, I should clear this up, and the RAL 1995 Imanis, these are essentially the same teams, the same company making it. Okay, there's a name change somewhere in there to RAL 1995. So the Imanis is the flagship. It's a cost no object flagship. It is quite expensive.
Very.
All right. So it has 3 ribbons per side. Now, the thing you need to know about ribbon drivers, they're insanely fast.
Yeah.
I think they have excellent bass as well, that is implemented in the RAL headphones. So versus the SR1A, the Imanis has, according to them, under the hood, everything is new. This is the next generation of ribbon drivers that in certain areas parted ways with the old, but inherited the best features of the previous ones. And they say for the 3 ribbon drivers per side, each ribbon is tuned slightly differently so they cannot repeat errors in the same way.
Yeah, which I think is a brilliant design.
It's a neat way to put it.
Yeah.
Now, they do require a transformer with most amplifiers to use because I believe the native load coming right off the headphone is, or into the headphone is too low an impedance for most headphone amplifiers. So you will require a transformer most likely. I think there's an amp or 2 that can drive them directly that are purpose-built for it. There's an optional transformer that has a built-in headphone stand, an optional transformer with high-low impedance inputs. And the ear pads, I should mention, are made of lamb suede with perforated leather, and they're extremely comfortable.
Yeah, they are.
Now I want to talk about the sound signature of the Imanis. The Imanis, to me, is an incredible headphone. It is within my range of neutrality, but there's something about them, and I think it's those ribbon drivers, the 3 ribbon drivers per side, the speed of them. I don't know what it is about those driver types, but it's like everything within the entire spectrum just jumps off those drivers. It's like physical texture.
Yeah.
And I love it about it. So the bass is visceral, but it's not emphasized to my ears. I've not measured it, not seen a measurement of it, but that's how I'm going to describe how it sounds to me, and that's what makes it so special. And I think the RAL Imanis is probably the RAL 1995 Imanis is, I would say, one of the best headphones I've heard. It's certainly one of the best headphones available today. Absolutely one of the most resolving, if not the most resolving, non-electrostatic headphones I've heard, and just a can't miss cost no object flagship headphone. Now we can't talk about the RAL 1995 Imanis without talking about its much more affordable sibling, the RAL 1995 Magna. I do the quotes because
they are necessary.
Yeah, because it's not, I mean, by my standards anyway, it's not affordable. If it's affordable for you, can we be friends? But anyways, but here's what I'll say about it. The Imanis is absolutely the better headphone. The cost no object flagship for a reason.
Yeah.
But the Magna being so much less expensive, that price difference might be the difference between, staying married and being divorced.
Yeah.
So if that's going to be the case, the Magna for its price it got me closer to the Imanis than I would have imagined it could at the price.
Right.
So I should mention the Magna has a dual ribbon design. It's 2 ribbons per side versus 3 in the Imanis. And a lot of the stuff I said about the Imanis absolutely applies to the Magna, to my ears. It's just that the Imanis is more.
Yeah.
So there's more magic in it. But the Magna, again, to me, gets you closer than I thought it could at that price.
Deconi Audio is best known in our space for their line of premium aftermarket ear pads replaceable for your full-size headphones.
IEM ear tips, too.
They make IEM ear tips. They make full-size headphone cases, which the Savior case is fantastic. We have a number of those around
We
here.
have like a dozen of them now.
Yeah.
They're fantastic cases.
They are. Yeah. And Deconi Audio is getting into a new category in the headphone space, and that excites me. They're getting into cables, and I have one right here. And you're probably wondering, wow, why is that cable so short? Well, when you think about premium replacement headphone cables with swappable terminations, every single time it's swapped at the termination side. And for Deconi Audio, they've gone with a different direction. They're swapping it, they're doing the split at the Y splitter. So they're 2 separate parts. One stays connected to your headphone, one stays connected to your device, and you can just swap between them back and forth as you needed. They're keyed. They have a locking detent system, and they just snap right into place.
It actually feels nice.
Yeah, and then it locks, and I love that security. So they come in a couple different versions. So what I'm holding here right now is a cloth-wrapped silver in a Deconi blue sleeving. They also have a braided silver plated copper cable, and we have that currently connected to the HD 660S2 up here on the table. Now you notice we have a couple different headphone models because they have a couple different terminations for the headphone side.
A few different
ones.
Yeah.
So they have 3.5 millimeter dual mono, which we currently have connected to the Hi-Fi Man. They have the 4-pin mini XLR, which we currently have connected to the ZMF headphones. And they have HD 600 family connectors, which we currently have connected to the Sennheiser, and I have it here in my hand.
Okay, can I just talk about that one real quick?
Sure.
That one I think is particularly important because as any longtime HD 600, 650 owner knows, that's an old school connector.
Very much so.
So it wasn't really made, I don't think, to be removed and inserted a zillion times.
Right.
And so they've been known on the headphone side to wear out if you overdo that.
Yes.
So being able to swap cables and terminations, but leaving the earpiece sides in, the ear side cable plugs in, I think is crucially important, in my opinion, for HD 600, 650 owners.
I agree. And if you pick up multiple headphone connections and then you just pick up a single one of the main line, you can just swap back and forth at the Y-split. You're not going to have to worry about toggling things back and forth. It also actually ends up saving you a little bit because you're buying less cabling in the long run.
Right.
Now, as far as on the other end of the cable, it comes in a 4.4 millimeter connection or a 6.35 or quarter-inch connection. They've talked about looking at other connectors for future lines. We might potentially see something like a 4-pin XLR down the road. We might see other connectors for headphones, like hopefully maybe an HD 800 potentially down the road. So I'm looking forward to seeing what comes out from these. However, the nice thing is you can bring your headphones to CanJam, pop over and give the Dakoni Audio Ensemble cables a try, find out if they're going to work for your rig. Now, there's a headphone that I believe you and I are in agreement that it is the main, pretty much the only wireless active noise cancellation headphone that we listen to primarily for music. Not where active noise cancellation is the priority, not where microphones are the priority, but music listening, and that's the Focal Batiste. And I'm happy to say, and a bit surprised to say, that it actually has competition from a source we wouldn't expect to see competition from. This is the Noble Audio Focus Apollo, and for those of you that are listening thinking, what? Noble Audio is primarily a company known for in-ear monitors.
Yeah, pretty much that's all they're known for the most part.
They're known for in-ear monitors, and they've stepped into the full-size headphone field, and I think they did a fantastic job with this. So this is the Noble Audio Focus Apollo. It is an active noise cancellation wireless headphone, and for those of you who are looking for wireless headphones, just know real quick that it has about 80 hours of battery life, 60 with ANC turned on, which is fantastic.
Yes.
But sound-wise, the reason why I think this is going to give the Focus, it's going to give the Batiste a run for its money is because of the fact that it just sounds fantastic. So the default signature on this, for my ears, to my preferences, it's a little bit thick, a little bit bassy. However, there are some EQ options in the wrap, and I'll get to that in a little bit.
Yeah, for my tastes, and I tend to like, obviously, more bass emphasis, more bass energy than you do.
Yeah.
But it is a richer tone.
It is.
But I would call it a clean rich.
Yeah, it's definitely clean.
Okay.
So there's also some really cool functions with this. So I mentioned the EQ app, and again, I'll get back to that in a second, but it has Bluetooth 5.3 with multi-point. So if you're using it wirelessly, you have a lot of options available to you as far as devices because that supports LDAC, Snapdragon Sound, AAC aptX, and aptX HD. And with the active noise cancellation mode, it also does have a transparency mode, which allows you to hear and observe some of the world around you through the headset, which is a nice function to have.
Yeah, certainly at the office here.
Exactly.
You should be able to hear me.
I don't want to. And going back to that EQ app, so they have several presets inside the EQ app. I found myself gravitating right away towards one that they called Jazz. And I thought with the Jazz EQ equipped, in this headset, it's a fantastic sound.
Yeah, so there is a personalization, like you can customize the EQ. Neither of us has used that yet.
Yes.
So I was looking more just at the presets. And of all the presets there, for me, it's going to be Jazz. Like you said, it just takes a little bit of thickness out of it, cleans it up a little bit. But for me, that's the one preset I'd use, and I use it either in the default sound setting, which is really nice for me.
Yep.
Or Jazz.
Yeah, absolutely. And it also has a detachable boom microphone, which is really nice for anybody that's on the go. And it has a wired USB-C connectivity for anybody who wants to have a wired connection. Now, with that USB-C, it also has what they call zero latency mode for gaming. So if you're a mobile gamer, the boom microphone paired with your mobile devices, it's going to be nice to have that on the go, especially with, a long battery life. You're not going to have to worry about much. Definitely stop by Noble Audio's exhibit and give this one a listen.
Meze Audio continues to surprise us. And they're doing it again with this headphone. This is the Meze Audio 105 Air. Air means air in Romanian. And the 105 Air surprised us both because of how close it comes to the one you're holding, which is the Meze Audio 109 Pro.
Yeah.
Now, that's been out for a while, and it's quite popular. let's talk about what it is first. Let's start with that one, and then we'll talk about the 105 versus it. The 109 Pro versus other Meze Audio headphones, especially their flagships, is actually on the more affordable side.
Yeah, considerably.
Yeah, and it's also a dynamic headphone versus planar magnetic.
Right.
It's a 50mm dynamic driver made of a carbon fiber enforced cellulose composite. And then the Taurus, which is the surround, I believe, the Taurus around the dome is composed of beryllium-coated semi-crystalline polymer that they say they chose because beryllium's high damping qualities. They say it helps suppress unwanted resonances, giving the 109 Pro its neutral, vivid, and transparent character. Okay, let's talk about its character. To me, it is within my range of neutrality.
Yeah.
But the treble is always on the upper range of my preference.
Yeah.
And then sometimes, depending on what I'm listening to, it can hit me as a little bright in the treble.
And I can definitely see that for you. However, for me, this falls square within my wheelhouse. That's where I like my treble to be.
Yeah, I know. So you prefer the 109 Pro.
I do.
Okay. So the 105 IR, which is quite a bit more affordable than the 109. Okay, let's talk about the physical changes first.
Yeah.
The 109 Pro has wood, which Meze likes to use in some other things. And it has wood, but it also has a machined metal chassis.
Yes.
I don't remember exactly what it's made of, but it's a beautiful machined metal chassis. This uses a polymer chassis and no wood. On the driver side with the 105 IR, I believe it's a similar driver. I believe it's a 50mm dynamic driver, but they don't use the beryllium Taurus, the beryllium-coated Taurus. Now, in terms of sound signature, I find them to be quite similar in terms of like very familial, very of a family. But they've smoothed the treble on the 105 IR in a way that I definitely prefer.
Yeah.
I find it to be a more refined treble. I would have to give the ultimate resolution in treble, in terms of between these two, to the 109 Pro.
Yeah.
But that smooth treble with the 105 IR is more in my wheelhouse. And I'm not sure if they've adjusted, retuned the bass and mids versus the 109. It could just be perceptual.
It very well might be, yeah.
Because it sounds richer to me, but it might be the change in the treble.
Right.
Anyway, if you're looking for a Meze Audio headphone, you can't afford their flagships, but you love their beautiful headphones, listen to the 109 Pro. And if you like that, you're in good stead because it's quite a bit more affordable than their flagships.
Yeah.
And if you like that signature, quite articulate, I like what they said here about it being vivid and transparent. I would agree with that.
Yeah.
But the 105 IR, you're in even better stead if you prefer this because it's quite a bit more affordable, even more affordable than the 109 Pro. And if you want that kind of maybe a smoother signature than the 109 Pro. So these are can't miss headphones at CanJam.
Now, this is a headphone that kind of shook up the Meze Audio headphone line, the full-size headphones. And I say it was a shake-up because this is a departure from the headphone that came before it. It's the Meze Audio Empyrean 2. And when we hear of a second-generation model, we often think about it being an evolution or a refinement of that original headphone. Well, they've gone a whole new direction with the sound signature.
Yeah, completely new direction.
And in my opinion, they've gone my direction. So the original Empyrean, you've described it before as rich, lush, very, very
romantic almost. Yeah.
I love that word. It's wonderful. This is more linear in terms of tonal balance, more referencey, more neutral, more studio-like, and I love it. I love this headphone. It's wonderful.
Yeah, I was pretty confused because, like you said, we expected a refinement of the original signature.
Yeah.
And that romantic sound, but I think maybe that's what the Elite is for, which is still their flagship, and that was a refinement, more resolving version to my ears of like the original Empyrean. So they have that still.
Yeah.
That's still the flagship. So with this one, like you said, they went to I'd say more studio monitor sound. Now, the funny thing is, Meze Audio visited us here at HeadFi HQ, and Antonio Meze, Mircea Funatsan, and talking to them gave me a clearer insight into what they were doing. Maybe we can talk about that in more detail another time. But this headphone, I think, will have wider appeal, more appeal to more people.
Yeah, I think it's going to have a broader reach.
Yes, and for the people like me who want that original romantic, Empyrean sound, again, there's still the Elite flagship. Yeah. Let's talk about the refinements they did make to this because there have been obviously changes.
Yeah,
it uses still Renaro isodynamic hybrid array driver with the switchback coil and spiral coil design. Now, that's not just marketing. The design actually works.
Yes.
It actually shows up in the measurements. All right, so it comes with dual flat ear pads, a precise blend of premium leather and Alcantara.
Yeah, those are new for this headphone.
New for this headphone, kind of a flatter, it's not angled.
Yeah.
But you can put angled Alcantara pads on it. But as far as I'm concerned, for the Empyrean 2 right now, those are the pads.
But the other pads do fit.
They do fit.
Yeah.
But those are the pads for it sonically to me. Matte black finish with silver accents, absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
I think we both agree that that's actually an improvement on the original Empyrean's looks, and I love the way the original Empyrean looked.
It is, but the grill work on this is exquisite.
The grill work is insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's absolutely gorgeous. And yeah, so for me, this headphone, if you've listened to Meze Audio's flagships, and they were too romantic, too lush sounding, and you haven't heard the Empyrean 2, that's the headphone you have to hear. So this is the Meze Audio Elite.
Yeah.
Still the Meze Audio flagship, but it has recently become even more important to me than it was before. I will explain. So with the release of the Meze Audio Empyrean 2, they went to a more neutral sound signature with the Empyrean.
Yeah.
And it replaced the original Empyrean.
Yep.
And the original Empyrean established this sort of Meze flagship sound as romantic, lush, smooth. I love that signature. You love the more neutral sound of the Empyrean too.
I do.
All right. Well, the Meze Audio Elite, which, by the way, we did a whole dedicated video review of, including measurements, comparisons, the whole bit. This is a refinement of the original lush, romantic Empyrean sound, but they made it more resolving.
Yep.
They made it faster, and it still exists in the line. So that means a lot to me because I do love that original signature so much. So what is it? What's different about it versus the original Empyrean? Well, it uses still a Renaro isodynamic hybrid array driver with the switchback coil design, but it uses a new one called the Renaro, well, new when the Elite came out, the Renaro Paris diaphragm. And that driver takes, I was looking at my notes from our original review, takes over 100 hours to produce.
I'd forgotten that, yeah.
Yeah, it takes forever to produce. It's very precisely made. The diaphragm is also made of what I already mentioned, Renaro Paris. And according to Renaro and Meze, Paris is an innovative low-mass acoustic diaphragm built on an ultra-thin biaxially oriented semicrystalline polymer film. I think we explain that more in the dedicated video, so please do watch it. As I understand it, compared to the Empyrean's diaphragm, for example, it's about 1/3 as thick, and it's quite a bit faster. And I think in the original video that we did about it, we show, I think, the different impulse responses of the two diaphragms, and it's faster. This headphone, if you prefer or want to hear that original lush Meze flagship sound, but with more resolution and speed, the Elite is always going to be a can't miss for as long as it's available.
So Meze Audio does have a habit, it seems, of changing things up whenever the time strikes them.
Yeah, they're not shy about that.
No, they're not. And this is another one of those headphones. So this is the Meze Audio Lyric 2. Now, original Lyric owners, a number of them came to Meze Audio and said, we like the Lyric, we love the form factor, but we want something a little thicker, a little lusher, a little more romantic in the sound signature. And Meze Audio said, okay, we'll give it a stab. They went to the drawing board. They introduced what they call the QWRM and a couple other changes. I'll talk about those in a moment here. But they delivered. They brought a headphone out that's a bit richer, a bit lusher, a little bit fuller sounding overall compared to the original Lyric.
Absolutely.
Which for a portable headphone, and it is portable, I think works great because you're often out and about and you're sometimes fighting those lower frequencies. Having a little bit more emphasis still lets that come through very nicely.
Yes, it does.
I think that's fantastic. So I want to show the QWRM, the quarter wavelength resonator mask that's underneath the pad here. And by the way, this is new, the detachable ear pads. We'll talk about that a little bit later.
Yes.
But the QWRM right here, the mask, they say that the QWRM is a precision crafted metal component that strategically covers select openings in the driver frame to effectively attenuate high frequency peaks above 7 kilohertz for a less fatiguing listening experience. And we've talked in a couple of different videos about how a small tweak in one section of a frequency response can make an overarching difference to the entire presentation of that signature.
Yeah.
So they're trying to maintain lower peaks above 7 kilohertz. They're trying to keep them from getting out of hand.
Right.
And that makes the overall presentation, everything else, feel, lusher, thicker.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah. And it's just a wonderful little development they came up with, and I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, they're not shy about making changes.
They're not.
From Empyrean original to Empyrean 2, they went from lush and romantic
Yeah.
to neutral studio monitor type sound. From the original Lyric to the Lyric 2, they went the other direction.
They did.
The Lyric, I wouldn't call the original Lyric like perfectly neutral or anything like that,
No.
but certainly more neutral than that.
Yeah.
And then they went from that to a more lush, romantic sound with the Lyric 2.
Because the owners wanted more, yeah.
And it's also gorgeous to look at with the wood cups.
Oh, it is. I think it's my Castor Ebony, yeah.
Now, I also have to talk about the Meze Audio Manta headphone stand.
Yeah.
We've used a lot of headphone stands here at HeadFi HQ over the years, and this is probably one of our 2 favorite headphone stand models we've ever used here.
Yep.
In addition to being drop-dead gorgeous, it looks organic, like almost something from nature.
Yeah.
It's made of cast zinc alloy and finished with a matte black powder coating. It has reinforced vegan leather headrest that they've worked on the curvature very carefully on so that it fits as many headphones as they could get it to fit with.
Yeah, not just Meze headphones, many headphones.
Yeah, many headphones. And it has a folding fin on the back to hold the cable, which we're showing here. It's rock solid.
Yeah.
It's very stable, which means a lot to us here so that we're not knocking headphones down easily. And it's just gorgeous. So I had to mention it because if you know Meze Audio's design and how beautiful all the stuff they make is, the Manta headphone stand is a beautiful and functional headphone stand from Meze Audio. And I think that's all I need to say.
Now, this headphone I almost feel doesn't need any introduction. This is the Dan Clark Audio E3. We've done a full HeadFi TV review video of this headphone. You even flew out to California to interview Dan during the launch.
Yeah, that was fun.
It was. And this is a fantastic headphone. I'll just say that right up front. So the E3 features the 5th generation of their in-house designed driver system, and it has an updated and improved AMTS inside, which is their acoustic metamaterial tuning system. It allows them to tweak and sculpt the sound exactly the way they want it. Again, check out that full video because we go fully in depth into that as well.
Yeah, we kind of explain how it works.
Exactly. So it has Dan Clark Audio's DCA V-planar knurling on the driver, and the chassis, it is built from titanium, aluminum, and carbon, and it's closed back, but this is, I don't know if you can hear that. This is Gorilla Glass.
I'm sure they can hear it.
So it's a glass enclosure that kind of looks open because of the detailing that's on the inside of the cup, but make no mistake, it is closed. And it's sound-wise, it is the most natural, most referencey Dan Clark Audio headphone to date, which I think is why it gels so well with me, even over their flagships, just because the tonality of the voicing is just right in my wheelhouse. It's fantastic.
Just your opinion, man. No.
But it's the right opinion.
No, see, so I agree with you.
Yeah.
It's fantastically balanced.
Yeah.
Right now, for me personally, I mean, we were teasing because we debate a lot about our occasionally divergent sound signatures preferences, and that one that's actually your favorite Dan Clark Audio headphone,
hands down.
Yeah, to date.
Yep.
It's a lot less expensive than their flagship closed back Stealth.
Considerably, yes.
I prefer the Stealth. To me, because I like what I consider kind of a smoother top end.
Yeah.
Just of the Stealth, kind of a richer tonality overall. But you definitely prefer the E3.
I do.
So we tease each other about this. So he teases because that's a lot less expensive and he prefers it.
Yeah.
I prefer the Stealth. But that is a very beautifully balanced headphone. I would say on balance, that's a tough one for me actually to say which one's more neutral, because as I always say, neutrality with headphones is more of a range than a single line. And I've said that for many, many years. And that is within the range of neutrality. Yeah. The Stealth is within the range of neutrality. So which one's more neutral? So maybe for your preference, you'd say that one. For mine, I'd say the Stealth. That's interesting. But for as affordable as that is relative to the Stealth, it is pretty amazing that we're even having this conversation.
Yeah.
So these are the Dan Clark Audio co-flagship headphones.
Right.
I actually love that concept, the idea of a closed back flagship and an open back flagship.
Yeah.
So this is the Dan Clark Audio Stealth. This is the closed back flagship. That's the Dan Clark Audio Expanse, the open back flagship.
Right.
The reason we're each holding the models we're holding is because you prefer the Expanse and I prefer the Stealth. All right, let's talk about it. The Dan Clark Audio Stealth, the closed back flagship, uses carbon fiber cups.
And they are beautiful.
So I should talk about you and I. This is kind of a bias of ours. You and I both love carbon fiber.
We do.
Like, I think a lot of people love carbon fiber, but we love carbon fiber. Yeah. So that leads me to say this is one of the most beautiful, like in terms of ear cup design.
Yeah.
I think this might be one of the most beautiful ear cup designs on any headphone.
It's absolutely stunning.
Yes, I think it's gorgeous. And it uses the 4th generation V-planar drivers from Dan Clark Audio. Acoustic Metamaterial Tuning System, AMTS. Right. Now, I should mention that we've done dedicated review videos of each of these, so please check them out. We have measurements for each, measurement comparisons, and, of course, subjective impressions, so check them out. We also love this. I'm going to do this.
Oh, yeah.
Folding gimbals.
Yeah, I do love that.
So for a flagship headphone to be that portable, and it comes with a great tiny case to put it in, I think is really cool, because you can take your flagship over-ear everywhere.
Exactly.
And sometimes I do. And it only weighs 415 grams, this one.
Yeah, that's a little lighter than mine.
Yours is a whole 3 grams heavier.
Yeah, but you got the carbon fiber.
Yeah, 418 grams. So the Expanse is, again, an open back, their open back flagship,
Yes.
3D printed acoustic cups.
Mhm.
That grill design, by the way, incredibly intricate. I
do love it. Yeah.
I don't think there's any way to do that but 3D printing.
I can't imagine.
Yeah, I think it's the only way to do it. Also, 4th generation V-planar driver, acoustic metamaterial tuning system. Let's talk about why we each prefer the ones we do. I prefer the closed back stealth. You prefer the expanse. Well, both are well within the range of neutrality that I talk about a lot.
Yeah.
But I would have to say, we were talking about this before we were shooting, that I would have to say that objectively, to my ears, that is the more neutral of the two.
Yeah.
So that would definitely be the more neutral of the two. This has a more rich tonality. A little bit more smoothness.
Yeah.
Still, both are incredibly resolving.
They are.
But that that smoothness and richness of the stealth that it has a little bit over that one, I prefer, and then you prefer that, which I would consider more squarely in neutral.
Yeah.
So as long as Dan Clark Audio makes these co-flagships, I think we'll always have to talk about them in our CanJam previews, because at any CanJam that these will be at, can't miss headphones. Now, I think the Sennheiser HD620S is one of the most important headphone releases of all of 2024.
Right.
And the reason I feel that way is because if you think of all the other HD600 series headphones, in this family that's been around for many, many years, decades, really, all of which are open back, by the way.
Yeah.
That is, I think, unequivocally the most legendary family of headphones in all of HeadFi, period.
Yeah.
I mean, do you agree?
I do.
And for them, after all these years, to finally have a closed back headphone that they say is a 600 series headphone is a very big deal.
Right.
Okay, let's talk really quickly about what it is. Of course, again, it's a closed back HD 600 series headphone. It uses 42 millimeter angled transducers with a 38 millimeter diaphragms. Steel reinforced ear cup covers, 150 ohm aluminum voice coil, so it's a 150 ohm headphone. Artificial leather ear pads with internal venting. Okay, those are the specs. What they did when they tuned it, so if you look at, say, for example, the frequency response, which they released, I think, Sennheiser released that themselves when they launched the headphone.
Yeah.
You'll see that it doesn't look exactly like a Sennheiser HD600 measurement or frequency response. But what they were doing was, as a closed-back headphone, they had to do some things to tune it to sound like an open-sounding closed-back headphone.
Yeah.
A very important goal for them in developing it. And then they also wanted to have a perceived tonal balance that was 600 class worthy.
Yeah.
Now, already within the open back 600 family, there are already other variations. So, there's not like one signature, but they wanted it to be 600 class.
Yeah.
I think they succeeded. I really enjoy this headphone a lot. And if you're a 600 family fan, and there are a gazillion of you out there, again, a legendary family of headphones in our community, and you're looking for a closed back headphone, and it's reasonably priced, in my opinion, the HD620S to me is the natural first place you should look. Now, I've said before, the Sennheiser HD600 family of headphones is unquestionably the most legendary family of headphones in all of HeadFi. And so the Sennheiser HD660S2, which is the latest version of a Sennheiser HD600 open back headphone, is a very important headphone. It's also my favorite of all of them.
Right.
Why? Because I love the Sennheiser HD600, HD650, and the models that came after it. But the 660S2, they tuned to have more bass.
Right.
And more bass extension, and that gives it a richer tonality. This is what I wanted, all along, but it was just something that I learned to accept wasn't part of the equation, wasn't part of the calculus of an HD600, HD650. And now you have an HD600 sounding headphone with real bass.
Yeah.
And more present bass. That's a very big deal for me, because I joke around that I'm an audiophile bass head. Okay, maybe that's not so much a joke. I kind of am. What I'm saying is I need that presence down low.
Yeah.
That I have it with the HD660S2 in an open back. Because with their closed back 620S, you get it, but that's a closed back headphone.
Right.
With an open back, now you get it with the 660S2. So of all the Sennheiser HD600 family headphones, my favorite of the open backs. And I would strongly suggest, if you're an HD600 fan, an HD650 fan, there are a zillion of us out there, and you haven't heard the HD660S2 yet, go to Sennheiser's exhibit at CanJam and listen to the HD660S2. Now, you may be wondering why we'd mention Woo Audio in the headphones portion of this preview video, and the reason is quite simple. Woo Audio will be your stop for all things Abyss headphones at CanJam Dallas. If you're not sure which Abyss headphone to try first, allow us to offer a recommendation. Now, Abyss headphones will not be at CanJam Dallas this year exhibiting on their own,
Right.
but Woo Audio will have Abyss headphones at their exhibit.
Mm-hmm.
I have to mention this one, though. This is the Abyss headphones Diana DZ. It's the latest Abyss headphones Diana model.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to say it. I think this might be my favorite Abyss headphone ever.
Yeah.
I love the Diana platform. You know, I travel with it when I decide to bring a full hotel room headphone rig.
Right.
Often the over-ear I'll choose is a Diana model. I think it'll be the DZ from now on.
Mm-hmm.
So the Diana DZ uses a 63 millimeter patented planar magnetic speaker designed specifically for the Diana DZ. It is a 50 ohm headphone.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I love it is it might be the most, to my ears, like the most conventionally tuned Abyss headphone.
Yeah.
But yet it has all the things that I love so much about Abyss headphones over the years. And most specifically, the way image objects have a sort of physical, tangible nature to them.
Right.
And I think any Abyss headphone fan probably knows exactly what I'm talking about. If you haven't heard Abyss headphones before, do check out the Diana DZ. Now, this one also comes with a new hybrid ear pad with soft ultra suede on the face side, and it sounds fantastic with that.
It does.
I've been playing, though, with the bass port pad, which I didn't put on there. It's the I use the vegan bass port pad, so if Woo Audio has that at their exhibit, try it with that because it's so easy to change the pads.
Mm-hmm.
But this headphone for me is going to probably be one of my new high reference on the go for like transportable rig use. Yeah. And it's also just a great reference headphone to use in any system. So yeah, the Abyss headphones Diana DZ must be checked out at Woo Audio's exhibit. Check out the other Abyss headphones as well, because I know I talked to some people who still prefer, actually you prefer the TC.
I do prefer the TC.
So you prefer the Diana TC.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also the Diana MR.
Yeah.
So try them all, because you might prefer, one or more of the others than the DZ, but for me, it's the DZ. So yeah, those are can't miss headphones. Now I also have to mention the Abyss headphones, the stand.
Yeah.
The headphone stand, which is one of our two favorite headphone stand models of all time, and what is unquestionably the most stable headphone stand we've ever used.
It definitely is.
I mean, among other things, it's quite heavy.
Yeah.
It's also a gorgeous design. They use machined wood, I believe is what they're using on it, and a heavy steel base with large rubber footers. You have to deliberately, and even then you might not tip it over, but you have to, if you have any chance of tipping it over, you have to deliberately try to do so.
It's a Weeble wobble for anybody old enough to remember those.
if you're old enough to remember Weebles.
Yeah.
Weebles wobble, but they don't fall down.
Yeah.
Kid you not, that's what that stand is like. They have select hardwoods, walnut, cherry, and sapelli. Is that how it's pronounced?
I think so.
Sapelli?
Yeah.
It weighs 5.2 pounds.
Yeah.
And it's expensive. It's $499.
Mm-hmm.
But we absolutely love this stand. So Sendi Audio and Sivga are two separate companies, but they're like sister companies.
Exactly.
And I first met them, well, actually, the first time I really sat down with them was at the Hong Kong AV Show 2024. And that was the first time I really sat down and had a chance to listen to their, I think, pretty much their full lineup.
Yeah.
But the two headphones that we're showing here are the two I spent the most time with. So Sendi Audio, I'm holding the Sendi Audio Peacock. Sendi Audio is more of, it's kind of their higher end of the two companies.
Yeah.
And then Sivga makes their more affordable.
Yeah, more budget friendly.
Correct, more budget friendly stuff. So I want to start with the Sendi Audio Peacock, which is the flagship. Now, these are both planar magnetic headphones.
Right.
The Peacock uses an 88 millimeter planar magnetic driver with something they call a quad former design, and it has 4 coils and double-sided magnets. I'll also mention that it has aviation aluminum housing, goatskin leather, which is very, very soft, memory foam ear pads, a CNC grill with peacock feather pattern. I actually think it's very beautiful.
It is.
And it actually looks like a peacock feather pattern. Like, I think if you didn't even tell me the name and you said, what does that remind you of? I think I'd actually say that.
Yeah.
So aptly named the Sendi Audio Peacock. Now this headphone, and I tried to convey this in another preview video, and I don't know if I was very clear then, and I'm afraid I'm not going to be clear now. It reminds me of another planar magnetic headphone that I adore, which is the Meze Audio Empyrean, the first generation one.
Right.
Yet it doesn't necessarily sound like a Meze Audio Empyrean, and that's where I think the confusion comes in, even for me, trying to communicate this. And it reminds me of that in the sense that it's resolving, but it is a more smooth and pleasant sound.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that lushness, but it's lush in a different way than the Empyrean, but it's still lush and romantic. And I enjoy that about this headphone a lot. And, I'm not surprised that this headphone is talked about in the community as much as it is. I'm just surprised that I had never listened to it until, Hong Kong AV Show 2024.
Exactly.
But I'm glad to have discovered it, I guess, for myself finally. And at CanJam, I think this is one that people should definitely listen to.
Now, while I agree that is a fantastic place to start at their exhibit, I'm also going to recommend that people definitely check out this one, which is the Civga P2 Pro. Like you mentioned earlier, it is a planar magnetic headphone, so similar technology inside. It's a little bit of a different size. This one is a 97 by 76 millimeter planar driver. This one's 32 ohms, so I believe that one is 50.
Yeah, this one's
if I'm
50
not mistaken.
ohms. Yeah, I should have said that.
There are a couple of neat little tricks to this one. First of all, I do like the shape of the ear pads.
Yeah.
They're sculpted in a very unique way, but it actually works well on my head, and I know you said before it works on well on your head as well.
Yeah, they actually said that they analyzed a lot of face shapes to arrive at those contours, and it is uniquely contoured.
Yeah, it definitely is.
Yeah.
And actually between the two, in terms of just overall presentation, I tend to actually favor this one a little more, which is kind of strange because there's a little more bass presence than I would usually lean towards. But between the two, this is kind of more where I kind of gravitated listening back and forth.
Yeah, the funny thing is I think we mentioned this in another preview video. They describe it as a clear and bright sound.
Yeah.
I would say clear, but I would not call that bright.
It's definitely clear. It's not bright.
Yeah, it's not bright to me. So I will agree with you in that I think I'm more excited about that one because of its price.
Yeah.
I also love the way it images.
Yeah, exactly.
In absolute terms, though, I would still say the Peacock's the better headphone.
I would agree.
Okay. Yeah. But the P2 Pro has imaging that is quite unique. So, and I remembered this when I heard it at the Hong Kong AV show. That was the first thing I noted about it. And then when we got it here at HeadFi HQ, I immediately remembered, because once I put them on, started listening to them, I remembered that I felt the same way.
Yeah, the recollection was immediate.
Yeah, very much so. So it's a wide imaging, but it has like a center anchor. Like I've said before, it almost like it has a center channel.
Yeah.
And I mean that kind of in a very positive way.
Right.
Because voices are kind of centered in this rather wide image. I enjoy the imaging on those a lot. I really hope people give the Civga P2 Pro a chance at CanJam and listen to see if they hear the same thing. I'm curious to know if they're going to pick up on that as well. I don't know if it's, on a per person basis, like if it's different for different people. But yeah, so in absolute terms, I'd say the Sunday Audio Peacock is the better headphone, but I'm almost more excited about the Civga P2 Pro because of the value it represents, the price it's at.
Yeah.
Yeah, so people should definitely check that one out too. ZMF Headphones manufactures some of the most striking headphones around, both sonically and visually, and you'll be able to find their headphones at a number of CanJam Dallas exhibits. So before you hit the CanJam floor, let's take a look at their two co-flagship models that you'll be able to find at the show, but also make sure to check out other ZMF models you'll find around the show floor. Now, I've said in another preview video that as long as they're making these headphones that we're holding, then we need to talk about them every single time.
Yep.
This is the ZMF Headphones Atrium.
Yeah.
That's the ZMF Headphones Caldera. These are the two co-flagships of the ZMF Headphones lineup. These are the open versions of each. This is the dynamic flagship. That's the planar magnetic flagship, the Caldera. And they're so immensely popular that I almost feel silly telling you about them because so many people probably already know what these are.
Yeah.
But we love these headphones dearly. Opinions seem pretty split between the two from people who've heard them both.
Yeah, pretty evenly.
I prefer the Atrium. So I'm going to talk about the Atrium first. So the Atrium is one of my favorite headphones, unquestionably, of all time at any price. It's just so musical. I don't even want to talk too much in terms of technical because I don't even know that we've measured this one. I'm trying to remember if we've measured it on the 5128. I don't even know if we have.
I don't think we have.
So I just love the way it sounds.
Yeah.
And the best way I can describe it is it's just music. So I have one of my best friends plays piano very well. And sometimes I'll go to listen to him play, practice or play. And when I'm in his room where the piano is and he's playing, I'm not sitting there saying, oh, that's nice treble. Yeah. Ooh, the bass is quite lively today.
Yeah.
It's just music.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, the Atrium is just music.
Yeah, it takes you into the moment.
Exactly. That's a good way to put it. And that's what I love about it. Is it the most resolving headphone in the world? No, I won't say it is.
Right.
But it's resolving. but it's just music. Again, I'm not in the room listening to piano going, well, that's very resolving, right? It's just, it is what it is. Anyways, that's the Atrium. Not a very technical explanation, I know, but that's how much I love it. Anyway, love this headphone so very much. The Caldera I also love. I just love the Atrium more.
Right.
That's the planar magnetic flagship. Again, that's a 60-ohm planar magnetic headphone. Uses an all-ZMF planar magnetic driver. Caldera asymmetrical magnet structure. Atrium damping system, ADS. It comes in the Caldera stockwood, I think is white oak.
I believe so, and I think that's what this one is.
Yeah, natural and coffee gold finishes. Also has limited editions that are released in limited drops.
Yeah, and I think those are gorgeous, and I will say, every time they come up, if you get a chance to get one, get it quickly because they'll be gone immediately.
Yeah, and a lot of ZMF enthusiasts have like multiple of the same model.
Very true.
Just for the finishes.
Yep.
So these, as long as they make them, we will talk about them. The opinions, again, seem evenly split between the two. A lot of people prefer the Caldera, a lot of people prefer the Atrium. I prefer the Atrium. But they're can't-miss headphones, and if you want to hear what I think is one of the best headphones I've ever heard at any price, then definitely check out the ZMF Headphones Atrium.
Biodynamic is joining us for CanJam Dallas, and it's wonderful to see them at CanJam again. While many of us know them for their classic headphones like the DT770, there have been many new additions to their lineup since. Be sure to stop by their exhibit and check out their entire family. My personal recommendation, start with the DT900 Pro X. Dana Cables will be at CanJam Dallas, and if you're not familiar with their line, they carry headphone cables, digital audio cables, interconnects, and accessories designed to pair with your favorite personal audio gear. If a new full-size cable is on your wish list, don't miss their exhibit. Austrian Audio's The Composer has received numerous awards and considerable love at CanJams since it was first announced, and for good reason. If you're curious to hear why it continually receives such high praise, you'll be able to find it at Vanna's exhibit. Warwick Acoustics will of course be bringing the two headphone models I'm sure most of you are looking forward to trying at their exhibit, the Warwick Acoustics Bravura, and their flagship electrostatic system, the Aperio. While you're there, be sure to ask them about the Aperio Golden Sound Signature Edition and put them head to head.
At CanJam SoCal 2024, there were a lot of product launches. And among the few standouts was unquestionably this. This is the Campfire Audio Clara.
Yes.
This IEM was developed, of course, by Campfire Audio, but with musician Alessandro Cortini. And it coincided with the launch of an album of his called Nati Infiniti. Wonderful album, by the way. But you might know him more from his work with Nine Inch Nails. He's a core member of Nine Inch Nails, a multi-instrumentalist with Nine Inch Nails. And I'm a huge Nine Inch Nails fan. I was actually at their first album's tour. The Detroit stop opened up by Meat Beat Manifesto. And that was years before Alessandro joined the band. Anyway, big Nine Inch Nails fan. So they developed this, and Alessandro was so excited about having people hear this for the first time because he was very happy with the results. So I wanted to hear it for sure at the show. Now, Ken Ball from Campfire Audio had this to say about it. He said, "This model is, in my opinion, the best hybrid we have ever made, but I'll let Alessandro talk about the sound and voicing when that time comes since he guided me on its development. We are doing an initial small run of the clear blue 3D printed hand lacquered shell with stainless steel matte black PVD lid, MMCX ring, and tip parts." That's the one you're holding.
Yep.
The clear blue shell is ongoing, while we will also offer a limited run of 50 sets of it and a 3D printed titanium alloy solid monolithic shell, which is what I'm holding.
Right.
I love titanium everything, and so I had to get one of the pairs of the 50.
Yep.
And so I ordered these right when I found out about them. Well, after I heard them.
Yeah.
And this pair's mine. So let's talk about what it is. Ken said it's a hybrid. It uses a 10mm biocellulose dual neomagnet dynamic driver, Knowles dual diaphragm mid-BA, and Knowles dual high-frequency tweeter. It uses the TAEC resonator on the high driver, that's tuned acoustic expansion chamber, and tuned mid-acoustic front acoustic bore.
Right.
Now, in terms of how it sounds, I would say first of all, the first thing I noticed about it was the imaging.
Yeah.
It images quite wide, and it's a lovely, coherent wide image. That was literally the first thing I noticed about it when I started one of my test tracks. And, of course, it doesn't image out of head. You need DSP pretty much to get it out of your head. But as IEMs go, it's a nice, wide, coherent image. I love the way everything's staged. In terms of tonal balance, I would call it on the rich side of my neutral range for sure.
Yeah.
Love the bass emphasis. Very tastefully applied, very impactful. The mids are bell clear.
They are.
And I love that about them as well. And the highs are detailed, but never bright for me. So, yeah, I love these. Now, for you, the bass is probably a little on the heavier side of your range.
It is.
You tend to like things that are bass tuned, perceived flat sound, and these have some emphasis, which I prefer. That's more. So these were squarely in my tonal wheelhouse.
Yeah.
So with that imaging, just a beautiful sounding pair. And the moment I heard them, I ordered the titanium pair, which I'm so happy to have. So at any CanJam you go to where they have a Clara, listen to it, because I think it is the best sounding IEM that Campfire Audio has yet made. So this is the Campfire Audio Astrolith.
Yeah.
This is actually a pretty unique IEM. As driver configuration goes,
definitely.
It's a dual planar magnetic IEM. I'll talk more about that in a second. So I remember talking to Ken Ball from Campfire Audio a while before they released the Astrolith.
Yeah.
He was so excited about this one. I think if you were to ask him, he'd probably say this is probably among the very best IEMs they've made so far. Right. I can see why he's so excited about it. So let's talk about it. Again, it's a dual planar magnetic IEM, which is quite unusual. It uses a 14 millimeter driver plus something called AAOI for the lows through mids. AAOI stands for Additive Acoustic Optical Inclusion Housing. These chambers are carefully engineered to create precisely controlled acoustic volumes and ensure the targeted vision for Astrolith sonic performance.
Right.
It also uses a 6 millimeter driver plus PPR for the highs. PPR stands for Particle Phase Resonator. Campfire's PPR smooths and tempers the 6 millimeter driver while still allowing it to shine and do what it does best, create lightning-fast transients, resolution, and top-end detail. And that it definitely has.
It does that.
So it's, as far as the chassis goes, it's a 3D printed acrylic body with a mirror-finished stainless steel faceplate. Actually, it's a lovely looking piece.
It definitely is.
All right, so now let's talk about the sound. So when they released the Astrolith, Campfire Audio also released a measurement. Now the thing is, I don't know what measurement fixture they used for that measurement, but that measurement, at least to me, doesn't look like what I'm hearing.
Right.
For whatever that's worth. And I haven't measured it yet, so I don't know what my measurement will look like and if it'll look like what I'm hearing. But it doesn't sound to me like their measurement looks. The tonal balance of the Astrolith, to me, it's on the rich side for sure. I mean, would you agree with that?
I do.
Smooth sounding overall, but it has this like a sparkle to it, a sparkly detail to it that, I mean, I'm guessing that's the 6 millimeter driver. And I really love that combination. Yeah. Because it's like a non-fatiguing overall signature, and it's super easy to listen to, but that sparkly detail is a lovely thing with it.
Yeah, there's no edge to it. It doesn't really pierce or anything like that,
right.
But it is sparkly.
I agree. So that I dig. So that said, for this type of tonal bounce, there's a surprising amount of detail coming through, but yet it's, again, easy to listen to. So for me, I can understand why Ken Ball was so excited about the Astrolith. I do love that they're doing something different with this dual planar magnetic design.
Yeah.
And the Astrolith is a can't-miss IEM. Headphones.com will be showing one of the most hyped IEMs in recent memory at their CanJam Dallas exhibit, and you won't want to miss it. Let's take a moment to talk about the High Senior Mega 5 EST. Of course, Headphones.com will have an IEM selection well beyond this.
Now, this is an in-ear that has been receiving a lot of love. I was surprised with the amount of affection this was getting on the forums.
It was more like ultra hype.
Yeah.
So much so that you and I were actually quite skeptical.
A bit, yep.
Yeah.
So when it arrived and we got to listen to it, I was pleasantly surprised. Consider my skepticism tossed out the door.
No, I agree.
So this is the High Senior Mega 5 EST. And I think one of the reasons, actually, I know one of the reasons why it's so popular is because of the sound signature. It's very close to what many would consider to be like an ideal in-ear Harmon-ish tuning.
Yeah, it's Harmon-ish, I would say.
Yeah. So let's talk about what's inside of this. So inside is a 5-driver tribrid design with one 10mm dynamic for the low end, two BAs for the mid-highs, and 2 Sonian ESTs for the high end. This comes in at about $550 here in the US, so not a crazy expensive price.
No.
And I want to mention, when I was doing my listening, what my notes said. Okay. So I wrote down that this is clear and resolving. The vocal presence on this is excellent. I did find it personally a bit too bodied in the low end. And again, that's my personal preference. I'm not saying it's a bit too low end bodied for everybody.
I'm just say something very quickly about that. So Brian tends to prefer, for those of you, I say this all the time, he likes things that I would describe as bass that's perceived flat.
Yes.
Okay.
And overall, I ended up feeling like this is going to be an in-ear that's going to click for a lot of people. Like I said, I was surprised when I listened to this.
Well, yeah, it obviously is. Yeah. Because the hype is definitely huge.
Yeah, it is.
Which is why we were skeptical. Yep. And then we got that from headphones.com because we wanted to hear what all the hype was about. And then it arrived and we're both like, all right, we get it. We get it. All right. So So here's what I said about it in my notes. Rich side of my range of neutrality. Because even for my side, it's in my range, but it's on the rich side of that range. It is harmonish for sure. I haven't measured it, so I'm not sure exactly how it measures, but it sounds harmonish to me. Within my range base-wise, but on the higher side of it. But on the bass, textured and detailed for the price for sure.
Yeah.
Excellent lows, mids super clean, well-implemented ESTs for sparkly highs, and put together very well, all drivers working in unison well. And that's saying something.
Yeah.
Because at that price, I literally, honestly, I think for both of us, it's nothing but recommendations at the price, easily.
Yeah.
So, okay, we were skeptical at first, but I think we get why people are so excited about it.
Right. Now, I almost feel like this one doesn't really need any introduction. It's the Hi-Fi Man Spawner Wireless. We've talked about it in a number of CanJam preview videos in the past, and we're going to continue to talk about it because it is fantastic.
It is.
I do want to talk real quick about what's inside of this before we get to any sound.
Sure.
So Hi-Fi Man did a very interesting approach with this in-ear. They treated it like a desktop system. So they focused on the DAC, they focused on the amplification, they focused on the drivers and the technology that are creating the sound, and it turned out wonderful.
Yes.
So it does have some Hi-Fi Man technology we've come to, expect from their products, like the Hi-Fi Man topology diaphragm, and then some stuff we didn't expect, like their Hi-Fi Man Himalaya in a true wireless. That's an R-to-R DAC.
Right.
And it's the full Himalaya. It's not even the Himalaya LE. It's the full-fledged Himalaya. So when you combine the way they approached every single part of this in-ear, the sound was phenomenal. And they also put some really cool tech inside of here too. So for example, it has Bluetooth 5.2 with LDAC, which is nice. It does have active noise cancellation. It's got built-in microphones for outgoing voice. It does have about 7 hours of battery life and 28 with the rechargeable case. And then if you're using it for any kind of exercise, it does have IPX5. Admittedly though, I don't use this for exercise. I use it purely for music listening.
Yeah, same here. So here's my just breakdown of this. The Spawner Wireless is still, by a margin actually, the most resolving true wireless in-ear I've heard.
Yeah.
By a margin. And I want to also mention there's no accompanying app.
That's true.
So you can't EQ it.
Right.
Now you might think that's limiting, but I actually find that, yes, it's a bit limiting, but it's also very freeing.
I agree.
Now to make that work, because you don't have to worry about, tuning it. But
exactly.
To make that work, they had to nail the tuning, which they've done. So I would describe the tonal balance as within my range of neutral, but the treble is about middle high for me.
Yeah, see, I like that.
Yeah, you like it. I do too, actually. I think this is one of those ones that we agree on.
We do.
It's like middle high in my preference range of treble range, but in a way that's important to its sound.
Yes.
Let me explain. So bass extension is good.
Yep.
Very good, actually. But I love that its tuning is on the more audiophile side, not on the consumer true wireless side. So there you go. So it's more head-fi friendly that way. Mids are bell clear, but the treble that I was describing is also, I think, part of its resolution. There's a lot of resolving ability in the treble with the Spawner Wireless, and I think that's where a lot of its magic lies. So altogether, just a beautiful tuning. And yeah, this, I would say, is, for me, one of only a couple of true wireless models that I use for dedicated music listening.
Right.
And that's a very big deal. So I do think that R-to-R DAC that you mentioned, I mean, who would have ever thought you'd have an R-to-R DAC with a true wireless in-ear?
I didn't.
Yeah. And if you're an R-to-R DAC enthusiast and you haven't heard it yet, so that should pique your curiosity. But it's, I think, important to the resolving ability as well. Fantastic true wireless in-ear for audiophiles. Now, Meze Audio usually tells us here at HeadFi HQ about products well before they're released.
That's true.
But not this one.
Yep.
So this is the Meze Audio Alba CanJam Singapore 2024. I go to their exhibit and I'm like, hey, what's that? And they said, it's a new IEM. Try it. Tell us how much you think it's going to be priced at. So I listened to it. I don't remember exactly what I guessed, but let's just say I guessed a lot higher than the retail price. Because it ended up being $160.
Yeah.
With the USB-C to headphone adapter, essentially a USB-C dongle DAC.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe it. So let's talk about what it is. It's a dynamic single driver, dynamic IEM, single 10.8 millimeter dynamic driver per side. The chassis is a premium zinc alloy, anodized aluminum parts, pearl color, which I think is gorgeous. I mean, everything.
It's beautiful all around.
Everything Meze makes is beautiful to look at.
Yeah.
32 ohm impedance. And it's terminated in 3.5 millimeter, but there is an optional 4.4 millimeter balanced cable.
Right.
But big change here, because I think their previous IEMs used MMCX.
I know a number of them did.
Yes.
Yeah.
This uses 2-pin. So they went to 2-pin for this. So IEM enthusiasts rejoice. A lot of us have a lot of 2-pin cables that we can roll. But if you don't have a 4.4 millimeter terminated one and you need it, they do offer an optional cable.
Yeah.
So let's talk about how it sounds. This is a fantastic IEM. I frankly think it's the best IEM Meze has made.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know how Meze feels about me saying that because they make much more expensive IEMs than this one.
Yep.
But even among those, this is their best one to me. It's their best balanced one. We ran it through MDACs. That's Head Acoustics Multidimensional Audio Quality Score, where it absolutely killed. I mean that positively. Maximum score is 5 for timbre, which includes frequency response and spectral flux, among other things. It scored 4.9 out of 5. Its overall score was also 4.9 out of 5.
Yeah.
We measured its distortion on the audio precision analyzer, and it has fantastically low distortion. I mean, so the technical performance of this thing is subjective. How it sounds subjectively, very balanced.
Yeah.
A more neutral tuning.
It is.
Frankly, again, I think it's their best IEM.
Yeah.
$160 with the USB-C dongle deck. Anyway, the Meze Audio Alba, in my opinion, is the best IEM they've made, and it's also, I'll say this, it's one of the best value anythings in all of HeadFi. I'll say that about a few products in different categories. This is among them unquestionably.
Technics will be joining us at CanJam Dallas, and they're also one of our CanJam Dallas event sponsors, so thank you Technics for helping make CanJam Dallas possible this year. Now, when you think of Technics, images of turntables, speakers, and integrated amplifiers may immediately come to mind, but it's their in-ear monitors that I'd like to suggest trying first, beginning with the Technics EAH TZ700. The EAH TZ700 is a 10mm dynamic driver IEM featuring a proprietary air control chamber that Technics says precisely controls the internal airflow for the perfect balance among frequency bandwidths. The TZ700 is an IEM designed with headfires in mind. They'll also be showing their flagship true wireless IEM, the EAH AZ80. The EAH AZ80 features 8 built-in microphones for a number of high-tech features like dual hybrid active noise cancellation, wind noise rejection, noise isolation, transparency mode, and more. It has Bluetooth 5.3 with support for LDAC, and you'll get up to 7 hours of runtime with ANC enabled. It comes in 3 different colors, and you can even pair it with the Technics Audio Connect app for complete digital control. Be sure to check out the wireless EAH AZ80, the wired EAH TZ700, and the rest of the Technics IEM family at CanJam Dallas 2024.
Lynn Soul will be traveling from halfway around the world to join us at CanJam Dallas, and their exhibit will feature IEMs from 7Hz, The Audio, and more, including the Kiwi Ears Critical Singolo. All right, I'm going to start this one off with a simple recommendation.
Okay.
All right, $79, buy it. Yeah. I mean, no, seriously, man. So this is the Kiwi Ears and Critical Singolo.
Yeah.
And in our world of HeadFi, $79 is a low-risk proposition.
Yeah, it's basically an impulse buy at that point.
Yeah. I mean, and I don't think anybody would be disappointed by this one at $79. All right, let's talk about what it is. So, I want to tell a quick story. So I had a chance to talk at length with Critical before it was released. And when he was telling me about it, there was a lot of talk about how much care and crafting went into tuning the bass. So much bass talk was had in this conversation, and I hadn't heard it yet, that I thought for whatever reason, and also knowing that it's a single dynamic driver per side, I don't know why I just formed the impression in my head that it was going to be like a bass-rich IEM.
Right.
I was wrong. And let's talk really quickly more about it. So it uses, again, a single driver, dynamic driver per side. It's an 11mm dynamic driver made of a Japanese liquid crystal polymer, which is LCP. And it uses something they call CARS, which is Kiwi Acoustic Resonance System. That's a Helmholtz resonator to regulate its tuning,
right,
as opposed to a resistor capacitor network. It's a labyrinthine tubing network, a discrete bandpass filter that manipulates airflow to the driver, regulating low frequency output. And they say this is what makes the tight sub-bass shelf possible, which they say wasn't possible before on a single driver IEM. And you can actually see that labyrinthine network right through the shell.
Yeah.
And with all the talk of the work they put into that, again, I thought it was going to be bass heavy. And it's not. Actually, it would be kind of mid in my range of bass preference. It's like in the middle to low, maybe on the lower side of my bass preference range. But it is a lovely sounding IEM, and I can't believe it's only $79.
Yeah, it took me by surprise.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, actually, this is probably right in your wheelhouse tonally.
Yeah.
Because you like perceived flat bass. Now they say it has a neutral mid-range and a clean treble. I think that is also a fair description.
Yeah.
They say it's a natural sound signature akin to a subwoofer without the subwoofer. I'm not sure what that means, but it's, again, to me, it doesn't sound bass emphasized, but it has really nice extension.
Yeah.
I think that's what Critical was going for.
Right.
$79. There it is again. Kiwi Ears Critical Singolo. Buy it. Music Tech always comes loaded for bear when it comes to IEMs, another one of those exhibitors who brings the international IEM market to stateside CanJams. And this year's CanJam Dallas lineup is no exception. Here's a sneak peek at some new releases from Breeze Audio, NG Audio, Nostalgia Audio, QDC, and Symphonio. And yes, Music Tech will have a lot of other IEMs at CanJam Dallas we haven't covered in this video. This is the Breeze Audio Fugaku.
Yeah.
To me, this was probably the star of CanJam SoCal 2024, just based on impressions.
I agree.
The water cooler team, loved it.
They did.
All right, $17,000.
Yeah.
And they sold several of them at the show.
Yeah, so Music Tech was selling them at their exhibit, and I believe they sold everything they had and even sold into back order that same weekend.
17,000. I need a raise.
Yeah.
I need a raise. So these are a system.
Mm-hmm.
The Breeze Audio Fugaku is IEMs plus an accompanying amp. So let's talk about the IEMs. It's an 8-driver, 5-way IEM, 2 8mm dynamics for lows, 1 balanced armature for mid-lows, 2 balanced armatures for mids, 2 balanced armatures for highs, and 1 MEM speaker for ultra-highs.
Right.
PVD black-coated pure titanium housing. When I first saw these, I was a little concerned.
Yeah.
Because it's a very unusual form factor.
Very unconventional.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then I put them in, went right in my ears. Ear hook actually worked beautifully. So comfortable. The cable, 16-core pure silver original cable.
Mm-hmm.
Thank goodness it's a nice cable because it's stuck. It's part of the system. It's stuck to the IEMs, and there's a very special plug at the end, multi-pin configuration because of the amplification needs.
Mm-hmm.
You know, for example, the MEMS driver is probably going to require a very specific type of amplification.
Yes.
So let's get to that amp. Dedicated portable amplifier. Here's how they describe it. 2-story structure with 4-layer board for the power supply, 8-layer board for the amplifier.
Mm-hmm.
Active crossover circuit with 10 channels in total for left and right. Power amplifier circuit with 12 channels in total for left and right.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot going on.
There is.
And again, the MEMS drivers, for example, would require special driving. So this is a very complex IEM. That had me concerned.
Right.
Obviously, the price has me concerned. I was like, is it all hyperbole? Is everybody just going nuts?
Mm-hmm.
Then I heard them. These are fantastic. You heard them.
I did.
You thought they were fantastic.
Yeah. I would actually go as far as to say almost perfect.
Almost perfect.
Yeah.
For me, I would agree. Almost perfect. It's hard to say something's perfect, right?
It is. It really is.
Are they the best IEMs I've ever heard?
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. And it's like if I told you these are the best IEMs I've ever heard, I don't think you'd be like, are you serious? You'd be like,
yeah,
I get it.
I would.
All right.
Yep.
How do they sound? They're big. They're big sounding.
Mm-hmm.
Very impactful lows. Physical lows.
Yes.
But I don't find the bass heavy in the mix. Do you?
I took it out ever so slightly, just a smidge.
Okay,
a tiny bit.
We got to background that a little bit.
Yeah.
He doesn't like bass. We have I'm teasing. He likes a lot less bass than I do.
Yeah.
But that you only took a smidge out
A
is
very
saying
small
something.
amount.
Yeah, see? So that means overall the balance you were totally digging.
Oh, yeah.
Mids are clean and extremely detailed.
Yep.
Highs are extremely detailed. The MEMS driver I'm not hearing as a standout.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing, I mean.
It's in the mix.
It's in the mix,
Yeah.
and everything is just completely integrated.
Yep.
Imaging is beautiful. I would say maybe the best imaging I've heard in IEM, certainly among the best I've ever heard in terms of imaging, maybe the best.
Yeah.
So effectively, everything I'm saying, because I'm just being a bit measured here, just because I don't want to spew too much hyperbole here.
Yeah.
They kind of deserve a lot of hyperbole, though. They're really
Kinda,
good. They're really fantastic. And again, it's definitely one of the best I've ever heard.
Yeah.
If not the very best. They're $17,000 though. So even if you can't afford them, and I cannot, but I'd love to have a set of these.
Yeah, same.
Anyway, at CanJam, don't miss them. Even if you can't afford them, just hear what a lot of people, understandably in my opinion, say are the best sounding IEMs ever made. This is the NG Audio Metis.
Yeah.
Had you heard anything from NG Audio before we heard these?
No, I have not.
I had not either. So what these are a really lovely all-rounder type IEM.
Yeah.
And it uses 10 drivers per side. That's 2 dynamics for bass, 4 balanced armatures for mids, 2 balanced armatures for upper mids, 2 ESTs for treble.
Mm-hmm.
It uses a 4-way crossover. And I should mention that it actually comes in 3 different colors.
Yeah.
So purple, pink, or teal faceplates.
Yep.
I'm colorblind. Which one do we have
the
here?
teal.
All right, we have teal. All right. And it has a CNC machine driver frame inside, and that driver frame is made from aluminum alloy.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's get to my listening notes. In the first line, what a lovely all-rounder.
Yeah.
Just like I said at the beginning here. So it is. So the Metis has a smoother, richer signature to my ears, and for my tastes, The bass sounds very mildly, very tastefully emphasized, and well extended. Audiophile bass heads might call it more of a neutral bass tuning.
Yeah.
All right. The mids have some richness, yet resolving in a way that's definitely not incisive. Now, in terms of how the NG Audio tuned the ESTs, the Midas is one of those EST-equipped IEMs that uses the ESTs more for some sparkle and air than for treble microscopy. That is, they're not using, to my ears, I don't hear the ESTs as defining the treble presentation in terms of the total treble, more for air and sparkle. I'm sure it's there, but it's not one of those ones where it's a predominant sounding feature.
Yeah.
I like that in this case. The Midas is an easy to listen to IEM, and I think it's a shining light in its price range. Its price is $1,750, which is $1,750, which is a very competitive price range.
Yes.
But when you can have an IEM that you can grab for almost, well, for anything really, for any genre, for any mood, right, that's integrated as nicely as this is, I think that is a huge plus. And so I find these very competitive at its price range. This is, again, the NG Audio Midas. This is the Nostalgia Audio Durandal.
Yeah.
Now, before these arrived, had you heard any Nostalgia Audio IEMs?
No, I had not.
I had not either. So this is my first experience, and what a great first experience. They'll be at CanJam, the Durandal, and let's talk about what they are. So the Durandal is a 7-driver tribrid design. So per side, one 9.2 millimeter dynamic driver for the lows, 2 bone conduction drivers for mid-lows, 2 balanced armatures for mid-highs, 2 balanced armatures for the highs. It's a 4-way crossover design, stainless steel front chamber, customized titanium sound nozzle, and an absolutely gorgeous faceplate.
Yeah.
It has a sword, very intricate edging.
Yes.
And it looks like something was that they stole, like ripped off some ancient relic and slapped them onto these. Absolutely gorgeous. And I also love that it comes with Vortex Cables cable.
Yes.
We're going to show the name, and I'm not going to venture to pronounce it.
Yeah.
All right. I love that it does come with a Vortex cable.
Yep.
Now, here's my listening notes. Bass had solid impact, but overall its sound closer to perceived flat tuning to me. So I'm guessing it says it has low-end lift down low, is what I'm guessing, because it's not prominent in the mix, the bass to my ears, but there is a lot of impact. The Durandal's mids are both clean and weighty. Maybe it's the bone conduction mid-lows, ?
Yeah.
The treble is definitely on the high side of my preferences, and so treble detail is strong with the Durandal. So I was listening to them just before we shot this segment here, and I still feel the same way as my notes are reflecting.
Right.
The treble is, again, on the high side of my preferences, probably more in line with your preference.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are going to really enjoy listening to these. And yeah, so the Nostalgia Audio Durandal is something that should definitely be checked out at the show. Now, some years back, I went to visit QDC's headquarters in Shenzhen, China, and whilst there, I picked up the QDC Anole VX,
Right.
which I still use to this day.
Yeah.
Kind of a ruthlessly revealing IEM. Still enjoy it a lot. And so that was their flagship then. But I believe this is their flagship now, if I'm correct.
Yes.
This is the QDC Emperor. It will be at CanJam. Let's talk about what it is. It's a 15-driver tribrid, 1 dynamic for ultra lows, 10 balanced armatures in the following configuration: 4 low, 2 mid, 4 high, and then 4 ESTs for ultra highs. 5-way crossover, 5 sound channels. So this is such an interesting flagship to me because I have a flagship. I think 2 flagships ago was the QDC Anole VX.
Yeah.
The VX is still in the line, to be clear.
Yeah.
But going from that flagship to this one is quite a departure. So here are my notes. It says, big departure from the QDC Anole VX with a forward signature in that vocals seem to cut through the mix clearly with these. Whereas the Anole VX is a pretty ruthlessly resolving IEM, the Emperor relaxes that a bit. Bass presence with the QDC Emperor is very good, but never overwhelms the mix to my ears. It seems QDC is using the dynamic driver for the extension and impact, but keeping the bass a little lower in the mix than a lot of the popular flagship IEMs these days. All right. I think that's how I feel about them. Because I was just listening to them before we shot this, and my notes still looking good. All right. For daily listening, I'd say I prefer the Emperor to the VX. I needed my notes to tell me that. Yes, I prefer this for daily listening to the VX because, again, the VX can be a bit much. It's pretty resolving, but I still enjoy that. I wouldn't want to give up either, though. That's for sure. Now, I also want to mention that the QDC Emperor is a gorgeous to look at IEM.
Oh, yeah.
So it's a beautiful, I don't know if is that abalone, mother of pearl? I don't know.
I don't know the difference.
But whatever it is, it's gorgeous, and I love the design. It's almost, I don't know what the design's supposed to be, but for some reason when I look at it, it reminds me of something medieval. But love the way they look. I also like that it comes with a 3-in-1 swappable termination cable.
Yeah.
So it changes at the plug ends, and they're very easy to change out. I'm usually on 4.4 these days. But at CanJam, definitely try the QDC Emperor. It's a lovely flagship from QDC.
So this is one that was new to us. It's the Symfonio Audio P0. Now, I've heard Symfonio Audio IEMs before at different events here and there, but I hadn't had a chance to hear the P0. And the P0 is a full-range planar magnetic driver IEM. Now, they're doing something a little unusual with that driver. It has ultra-thin electrical conductors, and they say the conductive trace is 5 times denser than the usual planar magnetic driver's conductor, which is unusual.
I'd like to see that.
Yeah, absolutely. It comes in a gorgeous precision milled metal body, and I love the combination of this organic looking faceplate with the machine metal. Absolutely stunning. It comes in a 2-pin cable, and ours is terminated in 4.4 millimeter, and it's 14 ohm. Now, you've spent more time listening to this piece than I have, so what did you think?
So I'm looking at my listening notes, and it says hard-hitting, outstanding bass.
Yeah.
It does have memorable bass in a good way, a very good way. Mid-range is smooth and detailed. I found this a slightly vocal forward-sounding IEM, vocals very clear in the mix. And then I add, despite the vocal clarity, there's no imparted sibilance whatsoever, which I find an outstanding quality. That's actually important to me.
Yeah.
The treble is very noteworthy, as there's obvious air, though again, I find it smooth and relaxed up top. As I'm sensitive to treble harshness, I dig the P0's treble. I actually have that in my notes. I dig the P0's treble. Imaging is super coherent and reasonably wide. I mean, maybe that's something to do with the single driver design. You don't have a bunch of drivers, different types to integrate and make work together. So maybe that has something to do with it. As planar magnetic IEMs go, I say in my notes, the P0 seems to be among those that take full advantage of excellent planar magnetic driver qualities. I really enjoy this IEM. It's one of those ones that is just really easy to listen to. So in terms of resolving ability, very resolving.
Yeah.
But it's not one of those ones that I listen to and then the resolution is what jumps out at me.
Yeah.
It just works. Do you get what I'm saying? So it's not like a scanning electron microscope. I wouldn't call them incisive, but yet there's plenty of resolution, and that makes it, I think that's like musically resolving. Anyway, at $4,900, they're priced in the flagship class, at least by my budget.
They are, yeah.
But I actually have no issue with that with these. So if you're shopping in that flagship class of IEMs, make sure to check these out at CanJam. And if you found that you like planar magnetic IEMs, I really think you're going to love these.
Okay, I kind of feel like I need to be a little delicate with this one because they're only making 118 of these.
Yeah, I think it's going to be quite expensive too.
I think it will.
Yeah.
So this is the Noble Audio Chronicle, and the Chronicle is celebrating 10 years of Noble Audio. Now, there's a cool little touch on this that I want to mention real quick. On the Y-split, they started in 2014, so it commemorates 2014 on one end and then their 10th anniversary in 2024 on the other. That's a nice little detail. I think
it's a cool detail.
It is. So it's a 10-year in-ear, and it's also a 10-driver in-ear. Inside of this, it's a little unusual because it's a 10mm and 7mm dual dynamic, but it's designed in a coaxial arrangement, which is, as far as I'm aware, not typical in an in-ear monitor.
No, I don't think that's typical.
I don't think it is. It also has 4 Knowles balanced armature drivers, 2 Sonian EST drivers, and 2 bone conduction drivers. And all of those are housed within a titanium Damascus shell. And this is beautiful because it's heat treated to create this gorgeous design. And we're kind of biased because we both love titanium.
We are titanium nerds.
Yeah, but it is beautiful.
It is beautiful.
It also comes with a custom cable. It's an 8-strand custom cable made with 5N single crystal silver and palladium plated 4N pure silver, and that's terminated in 4.4mm with a Pentacon connector. Now, when comparing it to the Viking, Noble Audio's Viking on the forums, John Moulton, who goes under the username Full Circle, he called it an all-rounder experience. Now, admittedly, I haven't spent much time with the Viking, so I can't really say how it compares head to head, but I can definitely see where he's going when he calls this an all-rounder.
Yeah, I have a very limited experience with the Vikings, so I can't really do the comparison. But I will say that its description as a great all-rounder, I would absolutely agree with. So the first time I heard the Noble Audio Chronicle was at the Hong Kong AV Show 2024. I went to visit Noble Audio's exhibit, and I didn't even know this was a thing yet. I didn't know there was a model called the Chronicle, and they wanted me to listen to it, and we were with a handful of other people, and so we all listened to it. To a man, we all loved the Chronicle. So it made a great first impression.
Yeah.
And so So the thing about it, okay, so first of all, the first thing I noticed about it was the imaging. Image is wide, beautiful, but precise.
Yeah.
So that was very noticeable. But the tonal balance, right, is so it's within my range of neutrality. I found a lot of in-ears today are kind of getting within my range of neutrality. Not because they're tuning it for me. I'm just saying that it just happens to be that way. But for the Chronicle, the treble is pushing against the upper limit of my treble preference.
I can see that.
But for doing that, though, it's not at all strident.
Yeah.
It's just detail. It's beautifully executed. It's probably right in your wheelhouse.
I love the treble.
What's up there, by the way? Two Sony and ESTs. So that probably has a lot to do with it. The mids are beautiful, balanced. Honestly, I love the way it sounds. And so did just about everybody, actually everybody there that listened to it. The thing about it is, I mean, as of today, shooting today, I don't think many people have heard it.
No, I don't believe so.
And it is rare, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
And so at CanJam, if you have a chance to hear the Noble Audio Chronicle, I think it's the best IEM they've made.
I'm going to agree.
I mean, for my taste, I think it's the best sounding Noble Audio IEM I've heard.
Yeah.
I think it is a top flight, flagship class IEM that anybody going to CanJam should hear.
So we've talked about before the true wireless in-ears that we use primarily for music listening, where that's the
Dedicated
focus.
music listening.
Exactly. This is one of them. This is the Sennheiser Momentum True Wireless 4. And the Sennheiser Momentum True Wireless 4, like the name implies, is the 4th generation of the Momentum True Wireless family. Since the first one, they've made several leaps and bounds, and they have wound up at a fantastic spot. So inside of this, it's a single dynamic driver per side, and it has some really cool tech. For example, it has Qualcomm's aptX Lossless, which is very nice to see. It does have adaptive noise cancellation, so it's an improvement over the noise cancellation system found in the True Wireless 3. It has a 6 mic array, and that's for outgoing voice. So if you're looking for Zoom calls or telephone calls, it is very clear and resolving. Fantastic as far as that goes. 7.5 hours of runtime, 30 hours with the charging case, which is great to see, especially if you're on a long flight, because this also gives you an 8-minute charge will give you 1 hour of playback.
I like that feature.
You can pop it in there for a few minutes and either take a nap or hit the restroom and then come back and you got a full run.
Yeah, okay, so the Momentum True Wireless 4 is one of only a couple of True Wireless models that right now that I use for dedicated music listening.
Yeah.
And it's a really cool combination of audiophile sound quality with like a consumer friendliness. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I get you.
So because something like an AirPods Pro I will use for calls, Zoom calls, and things like that.
Exactly.
But I don't use them for dedicated music listening.
Right.
This I do use for dedicated music listening, and it serves all the other purposes that I'd want, like with it has solid ANC.
Yeah.
Great outgoing voice. So I'll use it for those things and for listening. Now, here's what I want to say about the sound signature. Very resolving for something that is that consumer friendly.
Yes.
Enough that I feel comfortable using it as an audiophile quality true wireless. The aptX Lossless, using that with my Samsung Galaxy with aptX Lossless is probably where you'll hear it at its best for me.
Yeah.
It still sounds fantastic with an iPhone. I'm guessing that's AAC then.
Yeah.
So Momentum True Wireless 1 and 2, I used to take a lot of bass out. I took a pretty good amount of bass out.
I took a lot of bass
out. Because it does have a dedicated app, by the way.
It does.
So you can tune it. So I would take bass out of the 1 and 2, starting with the 3, which is more like the 4, sound signature-wise. I did not take bass out of that. So for me, I'm comfortable with the default signature, but you can still tune it because you can EQ it.
Right.
And so for me, again, that combination between audiophile sound quality and consumer friendliness, that is a fantastic choice for Headfires and a true wireless.
We really do have some fantastic gear here at Headfi HQ, don't we?
We are so lucky.
Yeah, we are.
We do.
So, like, we have this. So, this is Sennheiser's IE900, and we've done a full dedicated Headfi TV video on the IE900. If you haven't checked it out, definitely do because it's fantastic. We go into full details of subjective impressions and measurements.
Measurement comparisons,
talk about technology, and then we even start the video with like a little 5-minute sermon or lecture.
sermon. Yeah, okay. So, like, for the first 5 minutes of the video, I am giving kind of a lecture about headphone measurements, some of my thoughts about them, how they're used, targets. Anyway, do check out the video and that first 5 minutes. Get through it.
So once you're done watching the first 5 minutes, you'll learn that inside of this is a single dynamic driver per side. I should also mention this is the flagship in their IE family.
Yeah.
It is a single dynamic driver, and that's a 7mm true response transducer inside of this. And what they've done with the way they've sculpted that sound signature, it's strange because it's one of those headphones that you and I agree on very tightly.
Yes.
Generally, we might think, it's kind of nice. This is one that we are in lockstep.
Yeah, so we don't often agree on. We don't usually love the same stuff.
Yeah.
But we both ended up loving this one, and I think I understand why.
Mm-hmm.
So the bass extension, for example, it has excellent bass extension.
Yes, it does.
And it has a little bass emphasis. But I think the reason you like, because Brian doesn't typically like bass emphasis.
Right.
But I think because it's done quite low, right, you're cool with it.
I think that works for me.
Because it gives it impact.
Yeah.
And for me, it works because I tend to like some bass emphasis anyway. The mids are very clean.
They are.
But the treble, I should talk about this. So, first of all, it has a precision milled and anodized aluminum housing.
Which is beautiful.
Yeah, it is beautiful. And then they have something that they call X3R triple resonator chamber technology. It's Helmholtz resonator chambers.
Yeah.
Now, I think Sennheiser is really among the first, if not the first, to do these resonator chambers in their in-ears to sculpt the treble. And so in this case, they're using I guess you could almost call it like a 3-branch design. So it's actually very cool because the resonators are not in the pathway. They don't block the nozzle or anything like that. So they are instead done as side volumes.
Yeah.
And it reminds me a little bit of how hearing simulators work with the
That's
side
true.
volumes. So it's almost kind of like a 3-branch resonator. So they're sculpting the treble in 3 places to achieve what they wanted as their treble target.
Right.
We both happen to love that treble target.
Yes.
There's some great detail and presence in the treble. And I think this overall signature, for whatever reason, just works for both of us for the reasons that we're talking about here.
Right.
If you're shopping for a top flight in-ear, this is still Sennheiser's flagship, the IE900, and it's a can't miss at CanJam.
Fat Freak will be joining us at CanJam, and they'll be bringing one of the standout IEMs in their line, the Fat Freak Grand Maestro. The Grand Maestro is the flagship sibling in Fat Freak's family tree. Inside, you'll find a combination of dynamic, balanced armature, and EST drivers. Combined with Fat Freak's bass cannon technology, a Vox boost switch to enhance vocal clarity, and their NOAA pressure relief modules, the Grand Maestro delivers several different sound configurations to suit your tastes, assuming you're a lover of bass. We had the chance to audition a limited anniversary edition version of the Grand Maestro ahead of CanJam London 2024, and we came away very impressed. Hear why for yourself at Fat Freak's exhibit.
Bloom Audio's lineup of IEMs is monstrous, and they're one of the exhibitors who brings exotic IEMs from all over the world to our U.S. shows. At CanJam Dallas, they're going to be showing new releases from 7th Acoustics, Ice Lab, and Visioneers. Here's a small taste of what you can look forward to, and make sure to check out the many IEMs they'll have at the show that we didn't have time to cover here.
So this is the Visioneers EXT Mark II. It's the second generation of the EXT. Now, for those of you who are familiar with the original EXT, they made a couple of changes here. So first, I want to talk about the nozzle. So the original EXT's nozzle, some people gave feedback that it was a bit too large. That happened to be 7.4 millimeters. And for the Mark II, they've changed that down to a 5.8. So if you found the Mark I a bit too big for your ears, definitely check out the Mark II. Driver complement inside of this. It has 2 dynamic drivers per side, a 9.2 millimeter dynamic for the low end and a 6 millimeter dynamic for the mid range. Those are paired with 4 electrostatic drivers for a 6-driver hybrid design. And sound quality on this is phenomenal. I'll get to that in a second. But the chassis. So if you've seen the styling of the original EXT, that's been retained. It's still a beautiful, I love the style. So they have that same gorgeous purple that I fell in love with in the first pair. They also offer a gray silver now, which is nice. It's a little more understated if somebody doesn't want something as flashy.
I love the grooves, that X pattern.
Yeah, the pattern's gorgeous.
Underneath which is like a mesh.
The machining is beautiful.
It's so beautiful.
Absolutely. And then so is the sound. Now, keep in mind it's been a long time since I've heard the original EXT. However, from memory, the EXT2, I find that it's a bit more controlled in the low end, brought down a little bit, which is better for me because I found the EXT originally a bit too bassy. Now, maybe it's because of the perceptual shift or they've done something else, but in the mids through the highs, detail and resolution galore for the way they've worked that into the sound signature is absolutely wonderful. I'll be honest, I still tweaked down the bass a little tiny bit, but nowhere near as much as I did on the EXT.
Learn to love bass, my friend. I'm just teasing. He and I like quite different levels of bass, but that you're only tweaking it a little bit. Anytime you say that about something, that's a good sign.
Yeah.
When you only have to do a little bit to get us to agree.
It's in a good place. Yeah.
Yeah. So my notes I agree with you on the impressions. I mentioned in my notes, Mark II is very clean sounding. It's a very clean sounding IEM, super resolving throughout, which is what you said.
Yeah.
I do agree with you. It could be just due to the perceptual shift, but I also think he probably refined it.
I wouldn't be surprised if he did.
Further.
He is Oliver Marino. By the way.
Yeah, I'll talk about that in a second.
Yeah.
So the bass is right where I like it, Brian.
Yeah.
With great extension and impact. So Oliver Marino, who designs, he's the engineer who designs and voices, I think most, if not all, of Visioneers' IEMs these days. He was one of the first, in my opinion, like going back to when the ESTs came out years ago, when they made their debut, if you will, he was one of the first to get like a properly integrated, seamless sound with proper presence from the ESTs. And he continues to do wonders with ESTs. So these, for me, I'm very happy and excited about the EXT2 at CanJam. Yeah, they should definitely be checked out by anybody looking for high-end IEMs.
Now, this is an in-ear that was completely new to me. It's from 7th Acoustics, which is a name I've heard before, but I haven't had a chance to try any of their in-ears.
Neither have I.
So inside, this is the Supernova, by the way.
Yeah.
Inside the Supernova, there are 6 balanced armature drivers. So the arrangement is 2 Sonian vented bass drivers for the low end, 1 Sonian driver for the mid-range, 1 Sonian driver for the upper mid-range, 1 Knowles driver for the treble, and 1 Knowles driver for the upper treble. Again, that's 6 balanced armatures. When I popped these into my ears, took a listen, like I said, I didn't really know the company, so I had no preconceived notions, and I just made some quick notes. So the first thing that stood out to me was the treble. It was smooth without being too smooth, which in my mind is kind of a tightrope. You can go easily too smooth, in my opinion.
Yeah.
The mid-range has a nice touch of thickness and warmth to it, which I think gives it a nice sense of body in the mid-range. It's very, very nice. Now, the bass, if you know balanced armature bass, this is balanced armature bass done very well. It's linear, it's got decent extension, and it sounds very nice all throughout the bass range, and I think overall it gives it an excellent presentation.
Okay, so I agree with you on the 7th Acoustic Supernova. Here are my Supernova listening notes. The bass tuning is definitely on the lower side of my bass preference range. I'd say the Supernova's bass is the tuned to perceive flat type of bass.
Yeah, it's done very well.
Yeah, so for me, it's, again, on the lighter side of my preference. For you, probably right there.
Yeah.
I agree with you that the mids have a touch of richness, but I do think, in my notes I say, I do think that might be in large part due to the perceived flat bass.
That could be.
That is maybe because the bass is on the lighter side of my preference, kind of right where you like it. Maybe that gives it a little richness. I don't know. That might be the case. I also agree with you that the Supernova's treble is smooth without being too smooth. Like I said, you mentioned that that's a tightrope.
Yes.
For me, it's kind of, I like that smoothness of where it's at.
Yeah.
But for you, it's probably close.
It's right there, yeah.
But it doesn't cross your lower line. That's good. The Supernova sounds like a very nice, mostly neutrally tuned all BA design IEM, which is exactly what it is. And for the price of $850, yes, it sounds like a very good all BA design, and that is an IEM at that price that I really enjoy. In our CanJam Singapore 2024 preview video, we covered an IEM called the IceLab Prismatica Gold Limited Edition.
Right.
That was our first experience with an IceLab Prismatica model.
Yeah.
So we didn't know a whole lot about the line, and I assumed that the limited edition was significantly different from the ongoing Prismatica model.
I did too.
Right. And they are quite different in terms of the cosmetics. The IceLab Prismatica Gold Limited Edition was quite a bit fancier looking.
Yes.
All right. Befitting a limited edition of 18.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. The internal differences, however, as I understand it, are quite minimal, with the Gold Limited Edition having upgraded internal cabling.
Right.
So they improved the quality of the internal cabling for the limited edition version. I believe everything else inside was, for the most part, the same.
I believe so.
5 balanced armatures, 1 Knowles subwoofer, 2 Sonian composite UHF drivers, 2 full-range monomer drivers, 3-way Prismatica custom crossover, audiophile grade components. I believe it's Elna capacitors from Japan, Dale resistors from the U.S. What did I love? What did you loved it too? What did we love about the Prismatica Gold limited edition? The sound signature was, for me anyway, it hit just right.
Yeah.
I would call it on the rich side of neutral. Now here's the thing. Yay, this sounds the same to me.
Yes.
So I did not miss out like I thought I did, because now we have the normal Prismatica, since the other ones are all gone. So this has a rich neutral signature, which kind of is right where my tastes are in terms of tonal balance. I like a little bit of richness. I like a little bit of emphasis in the bass. And the neutrality throughout the rest of the range, I'd say, is pretty spot on. Images beautifully. Honestly, this did very well at CanJam Singapore. Like, the impressions were very strong. So people were digging it. So if you get a chance at a CanJam to listen to the IceLab Prismatica Gold Limited Edition, which you probably won't because there were only 18 and I think they sold, or just the standard one, you will then understand why I'm so enthusiastic about this IEM and why it did so well at CanJam Singapore. This is the IceLab Spectrumica.
Yeah.
Ain't even out yet.
No, it is not.
All right, so here's what I love, right? We get something, right? It's so new.
Yeah.
I can hold it we can listen to it,
Yeah.
and it looks quite finished, but yet we know so little about it.
Yep.
Anyway, I always find that funny. So we don't know where in the line it sits.
Right.
We don't know the price.
Yeah.
We do know the drivers, but we don't know how they're distributed through the spectrum. Let's talk about those drivers. It's an 8-driver IEM, 1 bone conduction driver, 1 ceramic dynamic driver, 4 balanced armature drivers, 2 electrostatic tweeters. Hey, Brian, those tweeters are probably used for the highs.
Yeah, probably.
Now, where the rest of them are in the spectrum, we're not sure. All right, so let's talk about listening notes now. And I'm already laughing because I see on listening notes, EQ to lower bass 3 dB shelf for Brian.
Hey, spoilers.
Yeah, I know.
I will say, though, once I do EQ it, there's some fantastic things going on in the mid-range, upper mid-range, and through the treble. It sounds fantastic.
Yes.
They're really phenomenal pieces.
Yeah, you have to learn to like bass more. But
No, I don't.
No, it's a joke between us because I know we say this in a lot of segments, but just in case you've not heard it before, Brian and I like quite different levels of bass. I liking the appropriate amounts, Brian liking it leaner. All right, here we go. Just kidding. But here are my notes. Not sure where in the lineup the Spectrumica is, but from what I'm hearing, I'm guessing maybe it's Ice Lab's new flagship. I am guessing it's probably their flagship based on what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
When I hear the Spectrumica, it sounds like a relative of Prismatica. The bass is more impactful, though, but it's also very clean. Mids are rich, too, but again, very clean. To my ears, the Spectrumica is richer in overall balance than the Prismatica.
Yeah.
So all kidding aside, when we're talking about bass, it does seem like it has more bass to me when I compare the two versus the Prismatica. But here's the other thing. When I say, why would I guess it's the flagship? Just because it sounds like there's more going on. Are you hearing that, too?
Yeah.
And so I'm guessing that it's going to be the flagship.
Yeah.
I do want to spend more time with it. I do have in my notes here, as I was listening to it, I'm not sure why we don't talk about Ice Lab more, in the forums than we do now.
That's true.
I think that's going to change because the Prismatica is outstanding, and this is also outstanding. I think this is going to be a pretty popular listen at CanJam.
Well, that was certainly a Texas-sized portion of gear, and that's not everything that's going to be at CanJam Dallas, happening November 2nd and 3rd, 2024, at the Marriott Quorum by the Galleria. Now, because we didn't have time to cover everything that'll be at the show, scrolling on your screen now is a list of all of the exhibitors and brands you'll be able to find at CanJam Dallas 2024. Thank you so much for watching. We can't wait to see you in Texas. We'll see you there and on the forums at headfi.org.